Call to order the City of Bloomington Board of Zoning Appeals for November the 14th, 2024. Can I have the roll call, please?
Thank you. Ballard?
Here.
Fernandez?
Here.
Clapper?
Here.
Throckmorton?
Here.
Okay, we have one set of minutes to be approved this evening from the October 17th meeting. Any comments, or we ready for a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay, any comments? Any further discussion? Okay, we're ready for a vote.
Fernandez?
Yes.
Clapper?
Yes.
Throckmorton?
Yes.
Ballard?
Yes.
Okay, those are passed. Do we have any reports, resolutions, and communications this evening?
Yeah, Jackie Scanlon, Development Services Manager. The only report this evening is that we do have a new planner who has joined us, David Brantez, so you all will see him, I'm sure, in the coming months. I believe he's at home watching on Cats right now. So we do, he will be doing the types of petitions that you will see, so just so you know, we have someone new on board. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm going to list the petitions that are continued to the December 19th meeting. Those are AA-17-22, Joe Kemp Construction LLC and Blackwell Construction, Inc., V-27-22, Cutters Kirkwood 123 LLC, and CU-31-24, Tim Henke. The petition that we will be hearing tonight is V-26-24, Alicia Spear. I am going to wait, though, we have a final member who will be joining us very shortly, and I want her to be able to hear this case. So we're just going to pause until she arrives, and then we'll have our staff report. It should just be a few more moments. Okay, I'd like the minutes to reflect that Flavia Burrell is joining the board.
Thank you.
And we are ready for your staff report when you are ready. Thanks.
All right. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Clapper. Again, Jackie Scanlon, Development Services Manager. We are looking at one petition this evening. And here it is. That petition is CUV 2624. It is for the property located at 2110 East Covenanter Drive. So you can see here on the near southeast side, near Covenanter and High Street. The property that we're looking at tonight is about 1.65 acres, and it is currently zoned residential medium lot, which is our R2 zoning district. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can. So the property is at the southwest corner of East Covenanter Drive and South Brooks Drive, and currently contains a single-family dwelling unit. So the request before you this evening is a request for conditional use approval for a home occupation. And the home occupation has to take place in the home per the UDO. And the original request included variances from the use-specific standards related to number of employees and on-site sales for fundraising. Again, in the residential medium lot zoning district, the petitioner has since requested to remove the on-site sales request. So we are looking at a conditional use request for home occupation, as well as a variance request related to the use-specific standard for number of employees allowed at a home occupation. So you can see here, this is part of the petitioner's dwelling unit. This is on the northwest side of the house. So the petitioner recently built an addition, and there is a second floor here that you can kind of tell in this area where the home occupation would be taking place inside the house. So obviously, the packet for this petition was larger than some of our typical packets. There is a lot going on this property, and the petitioners are working with the Planning and Transportation Department as well as the Engineering Department on compliance for a number of issues on this property or immediately adjacent, and is also working with the Economic and Sustainable Development Department on some opportunities for different types of educational opportunities on the property. The petitioner is also working with some council members to potentially propose some amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance related to educational opportunities on this type of lot, and that is all interesting and good for you to know, and a number of the letters address those items, including the petitioner's statement and letters from neighbors. And so I want to make sure that we all know that that is all going on, but what we are here to talk about tonight is this particular conditional use request to be able to do a conditional use home occupation in the house. So this is the state of the property as of earlier this year. I believe these were in June and some maybe earlier in the spring. So you will hear the petitioner and other members of the community talking about the things going on in the yard or in the right-of-way. Those are all things that we are dealing with. You can see here in the background in the middle, this is the addition. So this is a view from Brooks Drive facing northwest with the house here. And then, the addition is this way, and this is the accessory structure. So there is a lot going on this property, and the petitioner would like to be able to utilize the whole property in the way that a home occupation allows you to utilize a portion of your home. But that is not something that the code currently allows. So here is the developed home portions here in the back as well. But that is something that the petitioner is working with, again, at least one council person to see if a UDO amendment can be made to allow them to do kind of the educational piece that they want to do in the yard within the confines of the UDO. But that is not what we are discussing tonight. So back to the image of the garage addition where they are requesting to do a home occupation on the second floor. So this is kind of like a bird's eye view aerial. These are a number of the improvements that we could see from the Brooks Drive street view images that were taken by staff. And this is where the home occupation would take place. It's roughly 632 square feet of indoor space, which based on the size of this structure is only about 9% of the dwelling. And as you can see, there's a large driveway that spans the northern part of the property. It's roughly 250 feet long, can accommodate quite a bit of parking. So as I mentioned, this property is zoned R2 as well. All adjacent land is also zoned R2 and also has the primary use dwelling single family. So the petitioner is proposing to use the roughly 632 square foot of existing indoor space that I mentioned in order to offer educational opportunities related to the germination of seeds and other indoor plant care, as well as instruction for processing fruits and vegetables for sale and donation. The space was built for both personal use as well as possible use for the educational purposes. As I mentioned, the home occupation would be conducted in approximately 9% of the home. The petitioner proposes roughly 10 visitors at a time between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m., and that those visitors will be able to park on the property. And there was a parking exhibit submitted by the petitioner in the packet as well, indicating what you can kind of tell here, which is that there's plenty of room for on-site parking space. As I mentioned before, there were a number of emails and letters from both supporters and people with concerns, and so that was all in the packet, so hopefully you had time to go through all of that. We have been working with Ms. Spear since at least March of 2021 to try to figure out a way to legitimize what they would like to do here, as well as what they were already doing. So some of the things that were happening on site, including like Airbnb experience, where you could pay to come and do things, were clearly commercial. The petitioner has kind of rolled some of that back, and that is where we have gotten to tonight is the conditional use that we felt could be where they could meet the requirements. Again, operating in the house, doing the types of educational things that can be done in a house, that could be legitimized, and that a conditional use could be approved for those. We do not think that home occupation for what they would like to do in the, in the yard. Obviously, there's a lot of gardening and stuff going on, so any in the yard can be legitimized through the code right now. So this is, let's see, home occupation is permitted use in the Unified Development Ordinance as an accessory use. So the definition reads, an activity or occupation carried on within a dwelling or approved residential accessory structure by members of the family occupying the dwelling, and where the use of the home as an occupation shall be incidental and subordinate to the use of the home as a dwelling, unless the UDO states that the activity or occupation is not treated as a home occupation. So our home occupation section has some uses that are exempted. So for example, if the entirety of your business is on the internet and no one is ever visiting your house, and you're not doing, you have no signage, you're getting no deliveries, those types of uses are exempted. And this is not one of those. So again, home occupations allowed as incidental and subordinate to the use of the house as a dwelling. And then accessory use defined here. And again, the focus being on customarily incidental or subordinate to the primary use. So conditional use approval for this home occupation is required because it is not one of those exempted home occupation uses. And the primary reasons that it's not exempted is because it involves some number of people visiting the site and also parking vehicles on the premises. So I'm going to briefly go over, this is again in the staff report, but an abridged version. The UDO in Chapter 3, so Title 20, Chapter 3, lists, oh yeah. Yep.
Sorry.
Yep.
How does that, are you pulling that from somewhere other than the defined terms?
No. That's use accessory.
Oh, you're under the use section. Right.
Yeah, this is not home occupation. This is identifying, the first slide is the definition of home occupation. The second slide is the definition of accessory use.
Okay. Well, I'm just confused because the way the
Yep.
slide is presented, you could interpret that as home occupation, because home occupation is way more limited to what that's.
Yeah, so home occupation
Okay.
is the first one here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I got it. Sorry, I
Nope,
just want
that's
to
okay.
clarify that.
I'll try to be clear next time. All right, so the home occupation standards, there are 11. So the first is the operator residency requirement. As I mentioned earlier, the operator must live on the property. Ms. Spear does live on the property and is the petitioner and operator. Maximum number of non-resident employees. One non-resident employee is allowed. This particular home occupation proposes to use non-resident volunteers and interns. The UDO does not define employee, but the department has determined that volunteers and interns will have the same impact on the site as employees, which are the reason that they are limited. So the petitioner requested a variance from that number of only allowing one additional in order to allow a limited number of volunteers and interns to be working on the site. Ooh, excuse me. Maximum floor area, 50% of a dwelling unit can be occupied by a home occupation. And again, this proposal is for only 9% of their dwelling unit. Multiple home occupations, you are allowed to have more than one. This petitioner is not requesting more than one home occupation. They are, however, they do have a temporary use approval for farm produce sales. So that is separate from a home occupation and can only be operated 6 months in a calendar year. And so they are utilizing that right now to be able to sell the produce that they sell online from the property. Residential characters, number 5. There shall be no interior, exterior, structural, or aesthetic alterations that change the residential character of the dwelling unit within which the home occupation operates. With this particular request, no exterior changes are proposed, and the petitioner warranted that the changes that were made inside were for personal use as well as the home occupation. Outdoor display and storage of goods, materials, and supplies or equipment is prohibited. Again, this proposed home occupation does not include anything out of doors, though that is something, again, that the petitioner is working on with a council member to potentially find a way to amend Title 20 to allow for more opportunities for outside use of the home. That's not currently allowed, and they're not proposing outdoor display or storage related to the home occupation. Sales and rentals are prohibited. Direct sales and or rentals of products from the property are prohibited, except that incidental sales of products related to personal services, which is a defined term, provided through the home occupation are permitted. So that's like if you have a home occupation to be a hairdresser, you can sell shampoo and other items like that related to your personal service, again, a defined term that you are operating your home occupation as. Mail or telephone sales activities are permitted, and then this proposed home occupation is not requesting a variance related to sales and rentals. Again, they are currently doing sales under a farm produce sale temporary use, and they'll be able to do that for 180 days every calendar year, as long as they keep requesting that temporary use. Off-street parking and loading, no additional driveway is allowed in order to serve the home occupation, and a minimum of one off-street parking space shall be provided within. If you are in an established neighborhood parking district, they are not. And obviously, again, we looked at the driveway. There's plenty of room for on-site parking. Hours of operation are allowed to be from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and that is what the petitioner is proposing. Commercially licensed vehicles, no vehicles requiring a CDL license shall be allowed in conjunction with the home occupation. That is not happening in this case, so they comply with that. And deliveries to the property shall not be permitted except those that are typical for residential delivery services at a frequency similar to homes that do not operate a home occupation. So we are anticipating that that complies as well. So the only item for the 11 specific home occupation standards that is not being outright met by the petitioner is maximum number of resident employees, and they have requested a variance from that standard. Okay, so under conditional use findings, the items that we look at, the first is general compliance criteria. That the petition complies with the UDO, any other applicable regulations, utility, service, and improvement standards, and any prior approvals. So in this case, the petition, as I mentioned, does comply with the UDO standards with the exception of the variance request, does have adequate utility access, and is not subject to additional standards or approvals. Again, there are other things going on this property, such as improvements in the right-of-way. There's an extra driveway on Brooks. Those are things we're working through with the petitioner that aren't being addressed with this conditional use. Additional conditional use criteria in the code, there are four main headings: consistency with plans, including the comprehensive plan, and the petition is supported by a number of facets of the comprehensive plan, including trying to expand a focus on local food. It also, there is also a number of there's a section that discusses the Bloomington Food Charter of 2015 as well, and trying to increase urban agriculture. However, the comprehensive plan does also have a focus on quality of life and sustaining and improving quality of life of existing neighborhoods. So those in some, you may hear tonight, in some cases do feel a bit in conflict. Adequate public service and facilities, there's adequate parking on site, other public services are not being offered here, and there's not a strain on general public services with this type of use. The next is minimizing and mitigating adverse impacts. The home occupation for which we are discussing tonight must take place within the residence, and any excess parking will be on site. So the adverse impacts from the home occupation, we think, can be mitigated by the details of how the home occupation will run here. And the last is rational phasing, and there is no phasing plan for this proposal. So to briefly go over the findings for the variance, it's the same 3 findings for any development standards variance that must be met. The first is that granting of the variance would not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. We found that granting of the variance to allow, again, remember that the variance is to allow additional employees on site, that granting that variance would not be injurious to the community. There's plenty of space for on-site parking, and the use will occur within the dwelling. The second is that the use and value of the areas adjacent to the property will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner. We found again that granting of the variance will not substantially adversely affect those adjacent properties. Again, plenty of parking on site, and all of the volunteering and working to be done within the dwelling. The third finding, however, is that the strict application of the terms of the ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property, and that the practical difficulties are peculiar to the property in question, and that the development standards variance will relieve those difficulties. No practical difficulties were presented in the use of the property, as the home occupation, if approved, can be operated within the ordinance guidelines of 1 off-site employee. So based on the report and written findings of fact, the department recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt their proposed findings and approve the conditional use request and deny the variance request of CUV 2624 with the following conditions. Excuse me. This home occupation approval is for the use as described in the petitioner's statement, excepting the items for which variances are denied. That the entirety of the home occupation shall take place within the structure, and that if the Bloomington Municipal Code is changed to allow home occupations to occur outside of structures, any required approvals must be met before this property can have a home occupation outside of a structure. That the petitioner may not have more than 15 people on site for educational programming at one time, and that those utilizing the educational programming at the site must park on improved surfaces or in the garage on the site. And I can answer any questions. Thanks.
Thank you. It's now time for the petitioner to step to the podium, petitioner's representative, and you'll state your name, and then I'll swear you in, and you'll have 20 minutes to speak, up to 20 minutes.
So Ellie Spear or Alicia Spear, whichever.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, and I can swear you in as well?
I'm Brett Spear.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Go? Okay. Thank you, Jackie, for presenting our case. Thank you to the members of the BZA board for reviewing the 168 pages of documentation that we and other members of the public have provided to you to prepare for this meeting. Thank you to all the members of the public who are here tonight to share their thoughts regarding our request for how we would like to share our residential property and urban farm with the community. Why am I up here today? For 2 reasons. Because my family has been asked to help others. And 2, because we are confused as to why we are continuing to be treated differently. Let's start with number 1. We've been asked by hundreds of people of all ages over the past 4 years to share with them and provide them with a glimpse of what we are doing on our farm, how we are doing it, and how it could benefit their health, their property, and the larger community. Would it be easier to hide among our blueberry bushes and not share our approach to increasing the nutritional content of the berries and not speak to a soul? Heck yeah. But Many of our neighbors and neighbors from surrounding neighborhoods have asked. My kids' friends have asked. Their parents have asked. Their teachers have asked. My husband's patients have asked. They've all asked for help, for knowledge, for tips and tricks and ways to improve and change what they are doing within their homes and on their property. So we decided to take time out of our busy days to share our successes and our failures with home-based sustainability measures, including composting, recycling, water and solar catchment, as well as urban gardening and urban farming. We see no harm in that. We are having a hard time understanding the harm we are causing by letting people touch, smell, taste, and experience what we are doing in our garden spaces and around our property, giving them the power of experiential learning to help them decide if our approach is the approach that they would like to integrate on their property, in their garden, in their home, condo, and apartment, at their school, or within their organization. Since you've already read our petitioner statement and heard from Jackie how we comply with the UDO's conditional use list, causing no harm, I would like to create now a more concrete, vivid image of what we have done and what we would like to continue to do as a non-commercial urban farm located in a residential neighborhood. I want to share with you how our property usage aligns with the UDO. The wording for what we would like to do actually exists. And this board, you guys today, if you can come to the same conclusion that we have, it takes care of the issue. To let you know, if we need to tweak some things, such as numbers, hours, and frequency, it's not a problem. And to let you know, we have already made plenty of adjustments based on our neighborhood and community feedback. We are doing this for the community, not for ourselves. Let's work together to make strides towards our climate action plan that is still consistent with our city's comprehensive plan. I'm confident that you can find the gray between the black and the white, that activities and discussions that we have about tomatoes, loofah, and sage overall cause little to no harm, and instead, just a little bit of excitement. Let's paint a picture. Wow, Ellie, you grow loofah sponges? I didn't know that people can grow sponges. I thought they come from the ocean. Nope, they just grow on a vine, just like a pumpkin. And you can eat and cook with them just like zucchini? Yeah. Could I take some seeds home and try them along my fence? Sure. Well, what if I have questions once they start growing? Well, send me a message and I'll do my best to answer them. Fantastic. Now, what harm have I caused in this scenario? I do not understand. Of course, a weekly pool party causes little to no harm as well. So what is the difference? Both are outdoor activities that people find enjoyable to do at their home or the home of someone else. Why is engaging in gardening with others held to a higher standard in the UDO? Please think about the big picture. Our activities will hopefully benefit the future generations of this community and the environment. Let us continue on our mission to engage and inspire others, to take small steps towards an overall big community change and a cultural shift that is vital to combat our climate emergency. Zoning laws should encourage positive action towards the community goals, not stop it in its tracks. Garden Quest can start tomorrow. Please do not let it be another 3 to 10 years from now. Here are examples of activities that I would like to continue and their usage impact. Our request is designed into 3 buckets of property usage, including the number of students involved. Bucket 1, regularly occurring, 1 to 3 students at a time, 1.5 to 3 hours each day. This might be 1 day per week or 5 days per week based on class requirements. These students would learn and experience step by step what I do on a daily basis to run an organic urban farm, grow food, and minimize our ecological footprint. To give you an example, bucket 1 students would plant Brussels sprout seeds in the dead of winter in our indoor space, which we call the conservatory. Step 2, they would water and feed their Brussels sprout seedling with rainwater and fermented food fertilizer, which they will have learned how to make. Step 3, when the Brussels sprout is large enough to be transplanted, the student would take it outside and learn how to gently transfer it from the pot into the soil. Step 4, the student would learn how to protect the soil and the plant. Step 5, the student would learn when, how, and what to harvest from the Brussels sprout plant. Hint, hint, there are more edible parts of the Brussels sprout plant than you will ever see in the grocery store that you can actually eat. So, and then step 6, the student would learn how to process and cook with those Brussels sprout parts. Bucket number 2, 1 to 2 times per month, 1.5 to 2 hours per month, 6 to 8 months per year with 10 to 15 students attending. What would bucket 2 students learn? An in-depth experience on specific concepts such as bokashi food fermentation. Step 1, we would explain what to collect and show them how to layer their food waste in the bokashi buckets. Step 2, we would take the students out to different places on our property, to our garden beds, our landscaped and farm areas to show them how to bury the fermented food waste. The students would take part in burying the food waste. Step 3, we would show them food waste in different stages of decomposition. Step 4, we would show them how to extract the bokashi fertilizer and let them practice the different methodologies of foliar and drench feeding. Bucket number 3, occasional class experiences and tours. 1 to 50 students that would be bussed in, walk or ride their bikes from school, or would carpool to maintain our commitment to keep vehicles off of Brooks and Covenanter. What would bucket 3 students learn? An overview of sustainability and gardening infrastructure and methods. For example, let's look at this bunch of bananas. Bucket 3 students on a tour would learn that on our farm, we have discovered how to use or recycle everything, from the stickers, the wrap, the banana, even the peel. Now that we have explained the usage of our property, now on to number 2. Why are we being treated differently? As we see it, all of these buckets of usage fit within the UDO's definition of non-commercial urban agriculture, which is as follows. Non-commercial urban agriculture may be divided into separate plots by 1 or more individuals, or may be farmed collectively by members of the group, and may include common areas maintained and used by group members. This definition includes gardens, container gardens, edible landscapes, residential greenhouses, herb gardens, rooftop gardens, berry patches, vegetable gardens, and other similar activities. As this definition has been in the UDO since 2020, I do not understand why planning and transportation staff have not connected it to our usage activities, as described previously in the 3 buckets, and to those people who want to be a part of these activities. Why are we being treated differently? Why are we being forced into the home occupation box? In 2021, planning and transportation staff walked me through the UDO's urban farm protocol checklist, from submitting soil tests to check for heavy metals to temporary signage and farmer market stand requirements, and approved Garden Q's status as a non-commercial urban farm. 3 years later, here we are. I am still doing the same activities, other than I have added honeybees to what I manage and would like to teach about on the farm. The members of my Garden Q community change, and they come for variable amounts of time, yet they all come for one purpose: to learn about how to grow food and take care of the earth in an urban, neighborhood-based setting. I see nothing wrong with this. If I were to establish Garden Quest anywhere else other than my home, as suggested by some, people would not get to learn from my family's mistakes. What we are doing is real life, and I want to share our imperfections, that it is okay to take steps forward that are not perfect. This is what makes sustainability and gardening techniques doable. We are not, nor will we ever be, a botanical garden. We want to show our neighbors and our friends' friends how we are recycling the unrecyclable, yet that we are not perfect. How my 16-year-old still throws her snack bar wrappers in the trash, and that sometimes I fish them out. And other times I say, you know what, that's life. That at least we are reducing our impact a majority of the time. This is what people identify with. You might think that teaching the newest options in recycling has nothing to do with non-commercial urban farming. However, when people farm, they are expending energy and need food and water. When students come to learn, I encourage them to bring a snack. When they're finished with a snack, they ask, where should I dispose of the wrapper? At this point, I show them that our family is participating in this neighborhood pilot program called TerraCycle. And what are these students' responses more often than not? How can my family do this too? I am not harming others in our neighborhood by sharing what I have learned about TerraCycle. In fact, I am saying I am helping them reduce their trash that goes into the landfill, which is in line with the city's climate action goals. In summary, what I'm hoping from this board tonight is that you will see that our activities align with the non-harmful conditional land usage as well as the definition of non-commercial urban agriculture. Keep in mind that we are also aligned with the city's climate action plan. As such, we should be able to reestablish our sustainability and gardening activities in a fluid indoor and outdoor fashion. Just please think about the disappointment of only having indoor conditional use of a student when I have to tell them that they cannot step outside the foot of the conservatory to plant the dahlia flower that they have started from seed into the ground or harvest the dahlia tuber at the end of the season to make it into a dahlia soup. They will stare at me in utter disbelief and ask why they can't. I will stare back at them and not have an answer for them other than to say, talk to your city council member. This is not acceptable. 3 years ago, I was told to speak to my city council rep and that Planning and Transportation would be working on it behind the scenes in concert with Plan Commission. Here we are 3 years later, and I have seen zero progress on this topic. It is time to take some steps forward. On this, some positive action to remove zoning barriers that currently inhibit Bloomington residents from supporting each other and the city as we deal with our climate emergency. Here's my husband.
Well, I certainly can't compare to that. But.
I just want to let you know that you have 6 minutes, almost 7
And
minutes
then
remaining.
if I don't use all my time, I would like to bank it or save it.
Yes, exactly. There'll be an opportunity after public comment.
My name is Brett Spear. I'm Ellie Spear's husband. I have 4 broad observations that I wanted to share today. As you know, we like to teach gardening and sustainability initiatives indoors and outdoors on our property. Truth be told, Ellie does this more than I do, but I do fully support her mission. For more than the past 3 years, we've tried to work with the city to find a solution to this, but I feel we have made little to no progress. While it is unfortunate that Planning and Transportation is understaffed, we come here seeking today a solution. Trying to follow the city UDO, which can change based on who's interpreting the code that day, has left us feeling like we are running in circles. During this process, we have felt lost, confused, frustrated, and a variety of other emotions. This has taken a direct toll on our personal and professional lives. Number 2, in my profession, I come in contact with many Bloomington residents seeking advice regarding nutritional and sustainable living. Ellie and I have created a wonderful home, which can also serve as an educational space to help teach and educate. Really, as I echo Ellie, what is the harm? The Planning and Transportation Department has placed us in a box with currently no exit. They state that we are seeking a home occupation designation with both indoor and outdoor educational opportunities, which, as I understand, is directly against the UDO. However, again, they have either neglected to mention or did not know to mention that we are an official non-commercial urban agriculture farm. We have the designation, and tonight you can choose to put us in that box that has an exit. It's in the UDO. We can find it tonight. Number 3, First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, and freedom of assembly. It seems the city's UDO is limiting these rights for Bloomington residents. I feel that we should be able to gather on our property and teach our gardening initiatives. We feel that this is a very reasonable request and follows with First Amendment rights. And number 4, finally, there are some neighbors that are non-supporters that feel that our mission is sound, but not in their backyard. The most ironic comments that we have heard have come from those that quietly support us, but fear that their friends or their wives' anger should they openly side with us. Unfortunately, some non-supporters create false accusations and don't have the decency to reach out to us for the truth. Instead, they just spread rumors without trying to learn the facts. If they speak this evening, I implore you to take their words with a grain of salt. Most don't even fact-check well enough to spell my name or Ellie's name correctly in correspondences. And if you don't take that as proper etiquette, I don't know how you can believe anything else. And that is my time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, how much time remains? 3:35. Okay. Okay, so we are back to the board for questions. John, did you have a clarification?
Yeah, I just had a question for Jackie. I may have misheard you. At the very beginning, you made reference to other kind of right-of-way type issues or something that we aren't addressing?
Yes.
What are those?
They are that the petitioner has installed a number of improvements in the right-of-way along Brook Street, including a driveway. Most of the pictures I showed were along Brooks, so large gravel piles, logs, mulching, in the right-of-way adjacent to their property. So they are working with the engineering department to remove those items.
Okay, so questions of petitioner or staff?
Yeah, I've got a couple for the petitioner. First, can you
Could you
hold
start with
up
that?
buckets 1 and 2? I really like this visual presentation. It's very helpful. And very creative, I will say. Because I just want to try to remember what you were saying. Okay, 10 to 15. Okay. Okay, thank you for that. And then my other question is, were you aware of the constraints of what you're now doing when you either bought the property or started your endeavor? Did you know what the rules were of the UDO and the constraints that would come with that?
We had no idea we were going to get into this. We wanted a garden for ourselves, and when people started coming and asking questions, it all evolved into that. So we had no intention of doing this. It all was brought on us by our neighbors and our community members that asked for help, and we wanted to help.
Okay, and how many years have you, this is from 2021?
We built the house about 7 years ago, and we started the garden actually before we built the house. And then
We moved in January of 2016. The garden for ourselves originally was built in 2015 so that we would have food upon moving in.
Okay, thank you.
So I guess to answer your question, no, we didn't know the rules existed because we had no intent.
Jackie, I have a question. Could you talk a little bit about the process that got us to this hearing? Because there were a number of comments from adjacent property owners that were claiming that they didn't know what was happening. I just want to understand the notice, how proper notice went out and how, were there public meetings? Were there neighborhood meetings?
Okay, for this hearing? Sorry. Yes, the general notice, the Spear family sent the notice, so a letter that goes out to every property within 300 feet of the petition site, describing what they're requesting, where the request is, and who's asking for it, and also providing contact information for someone related to the petition. A sign was put on each of the rights-of-way, so one on Brooks, one on Covenanter, and there was a notice placed in the paper as well. This one, you may recall, was on a different agenda earlier this year and was continued. So every month, we indicate that it was continued to this meeting in the packet for the Board of Zoning Appeals. And then there were, I believe, 3 neighbors who had emailed me and asked me to let them know, and I emailed them when the packet came out.
Okay, so there's no requirement for a neighborhood meeting?
There was no neighborhood meeting requirement for this request, but I will say I did go to a meeting in the neighborhood, I believe 1 block or maybe 2 over from Brooks. They asked if I would attend a meeting where Ms. Spear described, what they wanted to do, and they were able to ask me some questions. I would say there were probably 50 people there.
Okay, thank you. Okay, other questions? Flavia?
Are there covenants and restrictions at Windermere?
It's a great question. I assume there are. I am not sure what they are. As you know, we do not enforce covenants and restrictions, but they can
Correct.
enforce them on each other if there are
Correct.
such
So
restrictions.
is there an HOA or a,
I do not believe that there's an HOA that this property is a part of, but the petitioner may know.
is there no?
There is not. The only restriction we know of is that we cannot subdivide our property per the covenant.
Other questions?
Farm versus personal garden, just to make
Sure.
it, just to clarify that, please? Because it sounds like that's one of the central issues here. So if it was a garden, there would be no problem.
Well, one of the, let's see if I can go from this slide. So you heard the petitioner say, hey, we are a non-commercial urban garden. You can get online today, so they have two entities. They have a nonprofit and they also have a business. One's called Garden Quest and one called Garden Q. And you can get online today and see what items are available for purchase from the items that are grown on site here. To be purchased here, this is the address, this is where the business is. So, just the very layman's definition of non-commercial, I think, has always tripped us up. I was surprised to hear the petitioner say that they have an approval from 2021 from a staff person indicating that they are this use. I know that they started that conversation with Mr. Grulich and did some soil samples. And my understanding is part of the reason that stopped is because they were doing commercial things here. And so then it became apparent that they could not be this use. So all that aside, they can't be this use for a number of reasons. So non-commercial urban ag has a number of use-specific standards. So those are on the screen right now. One of them says retail sales shall be prohibited on the non-commercial urban ag site except for the sale of produce grown on that site. Such sales shall be in compliance with the farm produce sales section. So the farm produce sales section is the temporary use that they are currently operating under to sell their produce, and you can only do that 180 days out of the year. Our understanding was that they didn't want to only do it 180 days out of the year, so they couldn't be non-commercial urban ag because they can't meet that requirement. Additionally, in Title 20, Chapter 3, 010C1, at the very beginning of the chapter that talks about uses, it addresses multiple uses, and it addresses multiple uses on residential zoning district lots and on mixed-use zoning district lots. This is a residential zoning district lot. A lot or parcel in a residential zoning district may include only one principal use, but may also include any accessory, conditional accessory, or temporary uses as shown in the allowed use table, provided that a conditional use approval is obtained for any of the conditional accessory uses, and that all use-specific standards applicable to each use are met. So the important thing here is that non-commercial urban ag is a principal use. It's not listed as an accessory use. The principal use on this lot is dwelling single family. And because they're on a residential lot, they can only have one principal use. If they want to do an accessory use, they can do farm produce sales as a temporary accessory use. That's what they're doing. They're already doing that right now. And that allows them to grow produce and sell it from this site, and they do that. But there are limitations, and one of those is 180 days out of the year. So I think one of the things that's getting muddied is like the term we keep hearing where people are saying urban farm. That's not in the code. That's not a term that we use. So non-residential urban agriculture is a defined term, and as Ms. Spear read it, it does talk about multiple members being involved. For example, we have one, I think it's still there, I'm not sure. We've had one in the past in Green Acres, and it's just a lot. It's a vacant lot that someone bought and turned into basically a community garden for whoever was interested in owning a plot or operating there. And that is the principal use on that lot. It's not in someone's yard or on a lot with a separate principal use. So this definition is for that. It's for items like a berry patch or a vegetable garden where that is what's going on that lot and people are sharing that responsibility. So yes, we have gone, as you can imagine, had many, many, many back and forths with the Spear family as we're trying to figure out, what the best way to go forward is with what they want to do. So that's something that you all see as board members, but just for everyone who's watching, sometimes people have a goal of what they want to get done on their property, and sometimes it's just not possible within the UDO. So they feel like we're not guiding them well enough, and that they're not getting an answer because the answer is the UDO doesn't allow what you're wanting to do. And so that is why In this case, I think it is beneficial that the petitioner has been recently talking to a council member about, is there a way to align the UDO with the goals of the comprehensive plan and the sustainability action plan that say we do want more agriculture in our residential areas, but that's a policy decision. So that needs to go through the Plan Commission and Common Council, not through a variance or conditional use approval. So again, the conditional use approval before you tonight is to let them operate within the house. It is not in your purview to tell them they can operate outside of their house. It's not in your purview to say, yes, we think you're a non-commercial urban agriculture in any sort of official way. I mean, you can obviously tell them that you agree with them, but you can't vote and make a decision that we as a city are calling them that. Your purview is to respond to the request that they filed, asking whether or not they can run a home occupation in their home with more than one off-site employee.
And also, my understanding, when you talk about nonprofit, it doesn't mean it's non-commercial. Nonprofit is a business that just simply operates differently than a for-profit organization, but it's still commercial. Is that correct?
Correct. The UDO does not differentiate between a nonprofit and a for-profit.
I'm saying standard practice, though.
Yes.
Standard business practice is a nonprofit still is a business. It's just the way that it's accounting, and it's not operating as a for-profit.
Sure, I would say that like in the UDO, the way the UDO talks about, for example, development standards or uses, they're applied across the board, whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit business.
I'm just trying to get to the issue of, stressing nonprofit doesn't necessarily mean that it's not a commercial venture.
Correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
How did you all arrive with the recommendation of 15 people as being the right number of people?
Well, we've received a number of different iterations of the petitioner's statement, and so at one point that was like slightly above what seemed like they thought the max would be. So because of the size of the home, it's, for example, when we went to the presentation at the neighbor's house, which was substantially smaller home, there were, I think, 40 or 50 people in there. And if you were outside, you would have had no idea that we were in there. So 15 people inside of this house was slightly more than what they asked for at that time. So it seemed like giving a little bit of like wiggle room. Some of the things they've mentioned in the past are like scout groups or, small classroom groups. And so that number could be changed, but that's kind of how we came to it initially.
Just a couple more for the petitioner. Well, actually, Jackie, for you first. What was the sentiment from that neighborhood meeting?
It was mixed for sure.
Okay.
It was mixed.
Okay. And then to the petitioner, I would ask, since the UDO is very clear in what it allows and what it doesn't allow, was there any thought given to approaching city council about changes to the UDO rather than waiting to get to this point? Or what were you met with from that?
Yes, we started in April. We went in front of the Environmental Commission. We spoke to the Subcommittee of Climate Resiliency for City Council. And who else have we talked to? Oh, BCause. We've also presented in front of BCause. And we've asked every single city council member to come out and see what we're trying to achieve. And we've had several city council members out.
Okay, and what was their feedback?
This is great.
Okay. Thank you.
But as she said, that was 7 months ago, and we've made no progress. So we don't anticipate making progress unless somebody helps us more than what we're able to do. I mean, it's been 3 years and now 7 months of actually inviting them out. And so, again, if that's all that we can get today, give us some help to get this done in the next 3 months. Give us some light at the end of the tunnel. Otherwise, we feel stuck.
So Jackie, the property is zoned R2, so this is single-family residential property, correct?
Primarily, yes.
Yes. So the primary use of the property is for a single-family home.
Correct.
Okay. I hear the petitioner calling it a farm, but it's not a farmland.
Monroe County Soil and Water District.
Excuse me.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, I would say the primary use, is
Yeah.
dwelling single family. The primary use is dwelling single family, yes.
Yes, so it's not zoned as agricultural.
No,
Okay. And the reason I'm asking, those are rhetoric questions. I just want the public to understand that this is city lot designed for a family in the neighborhood. So obviously, the neighbors will be upset because this is one neighborhood. And it's not an agricultural plot, correct?
I think that is largely the feedback we've heard from immediate neighbors, is what you're reflecting. I do think, it's hard because us recommending focusing on a home occupation can only be done in the home. It's not a value judgment on what they're wanting to do. It is in line with the sustainable action, I'm saying the wrong
So
thing.
if
But
the
this
peti-
isn't we need to, if this is the type of thing you want to do, before you do it, you galvanize decision makers who can make those changes in the UDO so that it can be done, and so that everyone who's affected by it can know it's coming and weigh in. And that isn't what happened here, so we are trying to find a
Yeah,
way
it happened.
to
Yeah.
halfway get them to where they're
So
in compliance.
hypothetically, if the Spears owned an agricultural lot in Monroe County, this would not be a conversation we're having now.
Correct.
They
Yes,
could
that's
They could
correct.
do exactly what they want to do.
Yeah, in my experience in the Monroe County Planning Department, what they're doing now would be allowed in the agricultural zone district in Monroe County.
Okay. Thank you.
Jackie, can you talk, I expect we'll hear some comments from the neighbors that will illuminate what their issues are, but could you just give us just an overview of, is it traffic, what are the concerns directly related to, I understand the scale issue, but just
Sure.
the traffic that might,
I think the
be
ones
created.
we've heard the most are the scale issue of, like Ms. Burrell was indicating, just this is so different than what they're used to, which, as that's not always necessarily relevant. I hate to say, I don't want people to feel like we're not listening, but your neighbors don't always get to decide what you get to do on your property. If it's allowed by code, you can do it. But that is largely what we've heard, and also traffic. Because Brooks is short and thin, those that live on Brooks, they will have reported, deliveries and things of that nature coming down Brooks because of what is going on the Spear property, that is blocked. I think also when they did the construction for the addition, because that was kind of happening at the same time and had its own traffic issues and stuff, it just kind of snowballed
Okay.
that question about traffic.
okay.
I appreciate you clarifying the purview, because that's always like the most important thing. I feel like people need to fully understand what's in our power and what's not, and the purview and what it allows for. So if we're here to find the middle ground, in your recommendations with the conditions, with the control we would have within the purview, would it be something like, instead of 15 people, 50 people, like they're asking for as their maximum?
Yes, yes, you could change that number.
Okay, but you're saying the outdoor activity is code? So we
Correct.
could do nothing there?
Yes, so because the outdoor activity, in the definition of home occupation, it indicates that it needs to be within a structure, and a development standards variance can't change something that's required in a definition. So
Okay.
you cannot change that.
So I want the petitioners to understand and realize we don't have control over that particular aspect of this whole thing. We have control over some other things. And just to clarify with the petitioner saying, was 50 people the maximum you were looking to bring in at any given point?
Yes, that would be 50 people if it were to be a tour outside. I would not feel comfortable having 50 people inside,
Right.
nor teaching 50 people inside.
So, and as what you had mentioned, non-commercial ag, because we live there, as the residential. We can't call it non-commercial ag. However, if we just moved into Bob and Penny's house, or we claim that as our residence and this is not a residence, then it could be non-commercial ag? Is
No.
that's what it looked like on there?
No, it's related to the fact that it functions as a business. You have a business, whether it is a nonprofit, it is still considered a business. So you do have your residence, but then there are 2 other businesses that are existing there.
So you're saying we could dissolve that and then fit into that box? Again, I'm trying to work with the code and work with we dissolve it. We no longer have a business. So what? We can educate people outside and teach people without a business. Help me work through this.
Yeah, we don't need to
you
sell
wanna-
vegetables.
Do you want to,
They were just extra. We could, we were just
I mean, I'm happy, this is like every conversation we have.
Right,
Which is
right.
fine.
because we want help.
I'm just not sure if that's appropriate to have
Right.
here, but if you guys want to dig into it, like, go for it.
No.
But, yeah, I think what Mr. Spear was asking is that, two primary uses on the lot, right?
Correct.
Dwelling.
That's what you had mentioned.
Yes, and then Ms. Clapper is indicating that because the second use is a business, that you couldn't have it there either way. Like, the primary use of your lot can't
So
be a
logically, we
business.
can work through this to become a single use. It's a non-commercial agriculture.
Possible, yes, I'm not sure. Yeah, we'd have to talk about it.
Yes, and everything that we do on the property in terms of the nonprofit there is no charge, just to let you know.
right.
But I know it doesn't
But that
matter.
doesn't-
It does
that's-
not
that's
matter.
how you define a
It-
business, yeah.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does not matter.
It doesn't matter that we have 2 lots where the non-commercial ag could be on one lot and our residence can be on another lot?
And it's really beyond what our kind of expertise is, honestly, in answering this
I'm asking you,
specific.
Jackie.
I would imagine that you have probably had that conversation with Jackie and with
We've
the
never-
planning department?
Actually, that one we've never had.
Okay, so a couple of things. Normally, you can't, like, address staff, and it's fine, I know we're, like, loosey-goosey here tonight, but you are not, like, when you look at the aerial, much of what you're doing for the business is on the house lot, right? So it's not split, so no, I don't think we could do
Right,
that.
it's considered one
It's, so,
property.
yeah, and for us currently, right now, it's one planning and zoning lot. You operate it as one, unit.
Yeah, it's one property. Okay. If you have,
I think it's page 131. At the top, there was a notation in there where someone had objected because they said that the activities were in direct violation of the UDO that said activities could be exempted if, quote, no employees or customers visit or park vehicles on the premises. It was the UDO number. How did we address that? I just wanted to come, I don't want to go all the way back to the top of this document. to find
Wait,
it.
how do you address, say it again?
The UDO statement that, on that particular page, top of 131, the activities now are in direct violation of a statement in the UDO which says that activities could be exempted if, quote, no employees or customers visit or park vehicles on the premises, UDO 20.03.6A.
Sure, so they're talking about, in the home occupation section, it lists exemptions. Like I discussed, if you're like a CPA and no one comes to your house, if you're doing it all online, this is one of the things listed in the exemptions, that you have no employees or customers visit or park vehicles on the premises. That's one of the things that checks off that you could be exempted. But in this case, obviously people come to the site, and so that's why they're saying they couldn't be exempted, I think, in this letter.
Well, I just wanted to clarify that because that was my understanding, but like I said, I didn't want to dive
Yeah.
all the way back 100
Yes.
pages to find that. Thank you.
okay, it feels like a good time to go to public comment. I imagine there are a number of people who want to speak tonight, so just know that you'll have 5 minutes. You'll step to the podium and you'll sign in and say your name. I will swear you in, and then there will be a timer that you can see your how much time is remaining. So
If you are on Zoom and you would
Yes.
like to make a comment, you can raise your virtual hand or you can send a message to the host, Jacqueline Scanlon, and we will probably do a group here in Chambers and then go to a group on Zoom. So
Right.
I will see you if you send a message or raise your hand, and then we'll get to you shortly.
Okay, so we'll start here and then have a few folks, and then we'll see who's online. So could you please state your name?
Hello, my name is Jonathan Ainsworth.
Okay, and I'm going to swear you in now, Jonathan. Do you swear or affirm that in the testimony you're about to give, to tell the truth, the
I have
truth, the
been
whole truth, and nothing but the
volunteering
truth?
with Ellie at Garden Quest for over a year now.
Oops.
Yes.
Can you say yes? Okay,
Yes,
thank you.
yes.
You please continue.
Yes, I have been volunteering with Ellie at Garden Quest for over a year now. I have enjoyed taking care of and learning about the plants and chickens there. Garden Quest has given me opportunities to use different tools, work outside, and learn about where food comes from. I believe Garden Quest is important because people should know where their food comes from. It is an amazing opportunity for people to learn how to grow their own food and how to cook healthy meals from that food. It would be a shame if people did not have a chance to experience all that Garden Quest has to offer. I believe the board should approve the changes to Bloomington's UDO in order for Ellie to continue to provide her expertise and knowledge to the community. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there a place to sign in? Okay,
Do you want me to put Jonathan? Should I put Jonathan's name?
sure, yes, please.
Bear with me. Hopefully this isn't cutting into my minutes. All right. Hi there. My name's Tracy Shandell Yovanovich, and I reside a block and a half from the Spear property. I'm the small house, by the way.
Okay, I'm going to swear you in now.
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thanks.
So I jog by the property pretty much daily, I would say, and I also purchase fresh produce. We moved here about 6 years ago from Seattle, and I met Ellie early on as I'm an avid gardener, and I wanted some expert advice, and she is an expert for sure. Since we've lived here, there were 3 more homes purchased over the time, one directly across from her yard on Brooks upon the death of Mr. Morris, one directly behind her purchased by the Glens, and one across the street on Covenanter. So clearly the property values have not gone down as a result of the property. And based on tax reports I've seen, there's been no property degradation. That's been one of the concerns that has been raised in the neighborhood. I spoke with a neighbor who also lives on Pickwick and couldn't be here tonight, and I thought I'd share the experience and thoughts that they had regarding the zoning challenges in Bloomington, which pretty much contrasts with our desire to be a sustainable, thriving, climate and environmentally conscious community. Several years ago, they added a studio and an apartment to their home to care for their parents as they aged. And in addition, they wanted to get chickens to raise their own eggs. They understand the zoning issues and concerns for the Brooks neighbors regarding residential neighborhoods and their ultimate intention to keep property values strong, neighbors feeling safe, business traffic at a minimum, et cetera, all good intentions. They're the same intentions that kept this family from originally getting chickens at the time the ordinance required that they get permission signatures from all neighbors, and a certain neighbor refused out of spite. The family worked with the council and others to change the ordinance and were finally able to get their chickens. Those same intentions also made it incredibly difficult to build the addition to house their aged parents. They had to write in the deed, which is still in their deed, that they would never rent out the apartment. And now if we look at the landscape, we have ADUs, we have Airbnbs, and so the times change. The ordinances and rules that they had to fight against have now come to light under more sensible and modern rationale. And it begs the question, shouldn't we keep moving forward in these modern and sensible manners? Align our policies and ordinances with the purported ideology that Bloomington touts of supporting sustainability, smaller footprints on the earth, education, etc. As the Zoning Commission, it's important to look back at the changes made over the past years for learning purposes and to continue down the path of modernization and progressive ideals. It's time to lead the way versus following, and really, honestly, walk the talk. Attached dwelling unit policies have changed, but once again, here in Bloomington, we followed. Let's get ahead of the game in this instance on urban farming or agricultural farming, whichever it is, and education around sustainable gardening, assisting families to help provide food assistance and sustainability. Regarding businesses in the home, Bloomington does in fact do home businesses, and there are many in our neighborhood. We support in our neighborhood lawyers, we have piano and harp teachers, we have designers, we have drum lessons, we have yoga instruction, all home-based businesses. But it's based on a don't ask, don't tell policy, as long as no neighbor complains. So perhaps it's time for Bloomington to move ahead on that front as well, especially as COVID has changed the landscape for corporate businesses. Why not city policy? The Brooks neighbors are concerned about the traffic created with education at the Spears, as they were with the bike station which was put in. The bikes are on the road regardless, as the city made it a greenway, and ultimately the bikes actually slow the traffic down a bit and make the drivers more wary. Facts are important. As we make accusations, we should understand what the traffic studies have shown. There are many site triangle studies done on the corner referenced in some of the letters that have circulated to the Spears prior to the Spears moving forward. CBU, Hand, Engineering, Planning, Transportation, the police were all consulted and gave approval until a neighbor complained. And then they pulled back the support, therefore forcing the Spears to put it on their private property. So another similar situation. And by the way, to date, there's been no traffic incidents. There's not been a lot of usage on it either. I've only seen 4 people using it, but it still looks good. The only traffic issue in my mind is the construction vehicles, which were a temporary challenge as they finalized the addition, which is pretty much done. I did work with the students on teaching some of the classes, and the buses, dropping them off is no different than buses coming and picking up students every day. The difference is that it's maybe 2 times per month. Many of the concerns raised by the Brooks neighbors are at a minimum small-minded and at most borderline harassment, given the nature and frequency of telling someone what to do with many aspects of their home. And a key example of the pettiness is complaining about the mulch on the easement. It's mulch. It looks like mulch. It looks actually better than some of the weed patches elsewhere on the street. We need to address global warming as a globe, nation, community, and neighborhood, and it starts with one home at a time and education. I would ask that the zoning authority rise above petty neighbor disputes and help to encourage societal improvements that are in line with city's platform of sustainability and education. Ultimately, I would ask that clear
Thank you.
policy be developed to prevent the need for hearings and neighborhood divisiveness.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Please state your name.
Jennifer Robinson.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jennifer Robinson, and I have been collaborating with Garden Quest professionally over the past 2 years. I'm also a resident of the Covenanter neighborhood. I'm in full support of the work that Ellie Spear has been doing through Garden Quest. It provides the community with a special learning environment. I've seen firsthand the unique learning opportunities that she's able to provide learners of all abilities. Her extensive knowledge and experience on urban farming is a gift to the Bloomington community. We should all be embracing her desire to share her knowledge and the use of her property to these experiences. Students have enjoyed working with her, particularly when they're doing outdoor learning activities and seeing the plants grow and being a part of the entire process. A lot of people don't get a chance to garden and connect with nature in the way that Ellie can facilitate. I believe the board should approve the changes so Ellie has the freedom to utilize her property for instructional purposes in a comprehensive way, and that includes indoor and outdoor use. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody online?
Again, I think I have one chat. Hold on just a second. If you would like to speak, you can send me a chat or raise your hand. I'm going to unmute you here, Dee Dee Curler, just a second. You should be able to unmute.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes, could you please state your name?
Dee Dee Curler.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you have up to 5 minutes.
Okay, so I've known Ellie, I've known the Spears for a very long time, and I've been purchasing their all the agricultural, all the vegetables and fruits, and I've learned so much about nutrition, which Ellie didn't mention actually, which I think is really, really important. That not only does they grow the most interesting vegetables and fruits, but they explain all the nutritional value and the radish leaves that you can eat, and sunchokes. And I think that this is just an amazing opportunity. It's around the corner from me. I can walk to their place. I think what they've done within a neighborhood is exemplary. And I think that in the same concept of having Harmony School in a neighborhood, outdoors, indoors, it would be amazing to have this outdoor opportunity of education. Ellie has gone out to our preschool at the synagogue and showed them how to plant things. And the hope was that we would bring children, into the education center, teach them how to plant, teach them how to measure. There's so much science and math involved in this. And we have a local expert, and it seems insane not to take advantage of this expertise and just the learning opportunities. So that's all I have to say. I just think it's an amazing opportunity that we have right in our neighborhood. So thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else online right now? Okay, great. So could you please state your name?
Good evening. My name is Nancy Goswami.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
First of all, I'd like to say that before I knew the Spears, my husband and I live around the corner from them on Morris Pike. We used to walk around the neighborhood. As we walk around the neighborhood, we would particularly stop at their house, and I was just amazed at everything that was going on, because we do have a backyard garden and grow a lot of our own vegetables and fruits, several fruit trees on our property. And I would try to rush my husband off because I was afraid they thought we were stalking them. And I had the opportunity to meet Matt last year at a local farmer's market, and that's how we became acquainted and became friends. So unfortunately, today I rushed off. I actually harvested tomatoes and peppers from my own garden and rushed off. I was going to bring some of them here this evening. This year, my garden produced an abundance of tomatoes, peppers, squash, kale, and a variety of herbs and fruit. Since I am relatively new to gardening, it has been a learning curve through trial and error. This year, I learned how to organically amend my soil, fertilize my crops, using the tea from bokashi, composting, and how to combat an invasion of squash bugs. Thank you, Ellie, for guiding me through that process. I am grateful to the invaluable resources offered from my more experienced friends. One of them happens to be Ellie and her brother Matt. Another personal benefit of living near an active urban farm, or I'm not sure what we're calling it this evening, is having a resource of pollinators nearby. I'm suspecting that the abundance of bees that visited our property this year pollinated my plants, and I thank you, Ellie, for sending your bees over to our house every morning. And a lot of my excess produce I was able to share with people in need, and including our local community kitchen. So just a few things I'd like to mention about urban farming. Community engagement, it offers community engagement and learning. There is an urban agriculture movement, and community-driven, provides efforts to grow food and adopt sustainable practices. Access to safer and healthier foods. Urban farming offers the opportunity to grow healthier food locally, especially in areas where access to fresh food and quality grocery stores are limited. And Ellie and what they're doing over at Garden Quest they're providing opportunities for people that would not have access to those learning opportunities. Environmental benefits, such as reducing food waste through composting, promoting soil health, and encouraging renewable farming practices. Also supports biodiversity and polyculture. Empowerment and resilience is another thing. Growing our food locally increases community resilience and self-sufficiency, and empowering individuals by giving them control over their food sources. Food literacy and education, hands-on involvement in urban farming enhances food literacy by providing people of all ages and backgrounds with the knowledge and experience needed to make proper food choices, instead of going, especially in food deserts where they have their only options are food-like substances laden with chemicals. And I recently learned that in the United States, our USDA allows over 10,000 chemicals in processed foods, where in Europe there are only 600. So learning how to grow some of our own produce kind of helps alleviate that and just makes us, a more healthy environment too, and society. Also, urban farming and learning how to grow your own food helps promote challenging corporate food systems. Health and well-being, urban farmers encourages consumption of fresh and organic whole foods. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming
Thank
this
you.
evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm in here in support of them.
Okay. Could you please sign in? Okay, please state your name.
I'm Kathleen Bogus.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
I've known Ellie since she was a young child. She happened to be an elementary classmate of one of my daughters. She was in my daughter's scout troop. So I've seen her grow as a Girl Scout, and she still carries those Girl Scout standards with her in everything that she does. I saw her go off to college and become a biology major at Emory. That's where she met her husband. She has been always a go-getter, someone serving with purpose, a risk taker, but someone who always has had a heart for what is right. I retired from Monroe County Schools as a school counselor. I have grandchildren that are currently in the schools. I see what students are going through today, the tensions, the stress, the ugliness that comes to them through social media. I think it would be a real shame if we could not figure out how to allow this endeavor to move forward. This is something that kids need. I have supported sustainability in my life, trying to help care for this earth in a meaningful way. And I think that's how we have to move forward. We have to be teaching the skills of how we care and use what we have been given, the God-given gift. We need to know how to use that in a meaningful, sustainable way. It's unfortunate that rules and regulations hinder us in moving forward. It seems to me this family has been working hard to try to figure out how to make this work. And I just think it would be a real shame if we can't figure out how to help them do something that is so productive and so meaningful for the stressed kids that we have out there. So please, I encourage you to approve this ordinance, this variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Hi, Daphne Clark.
Hi. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So I just wanted to speak specifically about the variance request to have additional employees, in this case, internships. So urban farming, by definition, is not done in an agricultural zoned area. It is done in residential areas, in towns and cities. We've seen a massive, as was said earlier, growth in the interest in urban farming. Just to give you a few specifics, right now, urban farming has grown 25% just in the last 2 years. It's projected to grow another 15% annually between now and 2030, so over the next 5 years, resulting in about $10 billion worth of revenue in urban farming alone. That's not commercial agriculture, that's just urban farming. It drives employment in technology, in agriculture, in supply chain management, and we've got a huge demand for people who are interested in learning how to do it. Coursera, an online educational process, saw a 30% increase in enrollment in urban farming courses that were offered in 2021. Right now here, I'm an adjunct professor both in IU, both at O'Neill and School of Environmental Policy and Policy, as well as at Kelly. We've seen students have a lot of requests and interest in these internships, and I just wanted to share with you how we stack up with some of the other universities. Right now, there are 15 universities across the US that offer internships in urban farming. Indiana University is not one of them. Of the 15, there are only 6 that have dedicated partnerships with local urban farms. The others require students to source their own opportunities with local urban farms. Our O'Neill School is ranked #1 in graduate programs and #1 in environmental policy and sustainability, yet we do not have a partnership with a local urban farm to offer our students for an internship. That's what Ellie's offering. And to not have that as part of the #1 program in the country, to be able to offer to our students when we see this level of demand being asked for urban farming education, I think is an opportunity that's missed. Right now, I did a quick scan on municipalities and how they're dealing with the issue. Today, as we speak, 15% of municipalities, cities, and towns have already adjusted their zoning laws to make room for urban farms and urban farm education to take place. The projections are that another 15% will be in place in the next 3 years. I'd like to see Bloomington to be one of those. I think we've got the opportunity, as Ellie identified, we've got the language. I'd like to see this group work with this example as a way to see if we can figure out how to do that. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
I'm Sophia Paulson.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sophia Paulson. I'm currently a second-year MPA student at the #1 O'Neill School of Public and Environmental Affairs here in Bloomington, where I also received my bachelor's degree in environmental management this past May. I have known and been working alongside Ellie for a year now as her mentee and unpaid intern with Garden Quest. With my graduate degree, I have taken an interest in food policy, local food systems, and sustainable agriculture. As my educational background has largely surrounded policy studies, I sought out an internship with Garden Quest for the opportunity to gain hands-on experience in growing produce to supplement my theoretical education with scientific methods. The knowledge I have gained in this past year, not only in the growing and production of plants, but in nonprofit management, facilitating educational opportunities, and community-based organizing has been an extremely valuable supplement to my education that I would not otherwise gain in a classroom setting. Working alongside Ellie, I have had the opportunity to practice seed starting, learn about Indiana's many native species, and grasp the intricacies of bokashi composting. Understanding how these processes work is essential for translating them as policy solutions. With Ellie, we are constantly exploring new ideas and methods for adapting to environmental challenges and opportunities. This sort of innovation is critical in the face of climate change. In the short 5 years I have lived in the town, I am familiar with how Bloomington's climate patterns have changed recently. As we continue to live in an increasingly volatile, both atmospheric and political environment, it is critical to support initiatives that seek out solutions to these challenges. In expanding these zoning requests, Bloomington can continue in its role as a leader in future-thinking progressive policy in the state of Indiana. With even just a few interactions with Ellie, or even attending one session facilitated by her, it is clear that this is her passion, urban agriculture education. Ellie is not driven by any sort of profit or personal financial gain, simply the joy and excitement that gardening brings her. Supported by her tight-knit family, husband, kids, brother, and parents, Ellie invests not only her time, but occasionally personal resources to ensure the success of Garden Quest programs. The impact of the enthusiasm and fervor Ellie brings to every session is apparent in the outcomes, as participants leave more excited and inspired than they arrived. I have observed Ellie lead preschoolers in starting a garden, teach Cub Scouts how to successfully raise microgreens, and orchestrate cooking and nutrition lessons for transition students. What makes her unique is her desire to reach learners across diverse identities of different ages and abilities. In every idea, initiative, and lesson, Ellie seeks to uplift the student, leaving them and their environment a little bit better than they were before. I have experienced this firsthand and can say definitively that I'm a better person, student, and professional because of Ellie and my experience with Garden Quest. I was looking forward to spending this past summer in Bloomington, continuing my learning with Ellie in the garden to see through the plants I helped start back in the winter, but was unable to do so because of this petitioning process. Had I been able to be outside working with Ellie, I would have another year of growing experience to support my resume, and unfortunately lost that time to develop critical skills. While I will be moving away from Bloomington this May, I hope to see these policies change so that Ellie can continue her initiatives and continue making an impact in her community and around town. Thank you.
Is there anybody else online?
It's raised.
Okay, great. Can you please state your name?
My name's Austin Spear.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thanks.
My mom and her nonprofit have given me and a multitude of other students the opportunity to intern, volunteer, learn, and move and more on her urban farm. I wanted to share with you today some of those opportunities her urban farm has provided to the Bloomington community. Most of these opportunities no longer exist because of the overly restrictive zoning code in the UDO. Please approve her request for variances so that these and other opportunities can once again be available to our community of Bloomington. For example, 1, my friends and I earned volunteer hours for NHS by learning to and helping seed new plants. 2, a Bloomington South High School student gained internship credit by learning about urban agriculture and chicken husbandry, working side by side with my mom. 3, an IU student gained internship credit by researching and setting up neighborhood TerraCycle recycling pilot funded by the BCOS. 4, an IU class is helping research city code related to urban farms, urban agriculture, agrotourism, and other related topics. Interviews with appropriate city employees will be conducted to gain more insight on how to bring similar ideas to Bloomington. 5, there was a school field trip from Marlin Elementary with 2 classes, kindergarten and first grade, involving 10 adult volunteers. It went off without a hitch and received rave reviews from the teachers and students. 6, a Boy Scout troop learned about how to bokashi food waste, seed native flowers, and learn how to grow sprouts. 7, a Girl Scout troop identified, harvested, cleaned, and processed vegetables and fruits. They made a complete meal at the new library cooking space and added a couple of desserts as well. The Scouts mentioned that it was the most impactful badge work that they had ever experienced. 8. MCCSC community transition students worked and learned life skills at the urban farm on a weekly basis. In fact, one student wants to start a garden at his group home, which is very exciting to hear. Number 9. Bloomington and Monroe County residents have the opportunity to learn and to turn food waste into liquid fertilizer and soil amendment through the process of bokashi acidic fermentation. My mom received a grant from the IDEM to purchase bokashi buckets and to teach 30 households in Bloomington the process. She had 3 trainings scheduled and conducted only one because she had to cease operations operating the nonprofit at our homes. The trainings have now pivoted to the community orchard. Number 10. The urban farm has provided inspiration and awe to various individuals and groups of people that come to tour the farm. People leave inspired, educated, and in awe of what is possible. In my opinion, attempts at agro-tourism should be encouraged by the city and not punished. While this isn't a complete list, it at least provides some context into the good my mother and her urban farm bring to our community. Bloomington should be supporting and encouraging ventures like this and not putting up innumerable roadblocks. I almost forgot to mention her rain garden project and vermicomposting system installed at Childs Elementary. There's also a vermicomposting system installed at Wonder Lab, and she is currently working with 2 Marlin Elementary classes on a food waste and garden project. With all that being said, I can't stress enough how many different teaching and valuable learning opportunities there are on the urban farm. Some of these include bokashi acidic fermentation, germinization seed starting, frost protection of fruits and veggies, honeybee husbandry, mason bee husbandry, leafcutter bee husbandry, fall orchard management, yard waste composting, vermicomposting, spring, summer, and fall produce harvesting, processing, nutrition, and cooking, food preservation including canning, fermentation, dehydration, and freeze drying, chicken husbandry, perennial plant management, end-of-season garden bed management, beneficial insect attraction and identification, companion planting, end-of-season garden bed management, end-of-season orchard bed management, seed ordering, preserving tubers, propagating sweet potato slips, growing and harvesting sweet taters, overwintering plants, spring orchard management, garden bed preparation, various berry bush management, summer orchard management, building and farming soil, invasive plant identification and removal, fig plant management to optimize fig production and ripening, and pest and insect management. Once again, I ask you, what is so wrong with teaching these topics, or any topic for that matter, on your own property? It is absolutely ridiculous not to allow my mother and her nonprofit to be able to share her wealth of knowledge on such a wide variety of topics on her own property, whereas she has built her urban farm. You might be the same way as me and others in my generation when I say that I learn best through doing, through practicing the skills that I want to learn. My mother's urban farm provides the exact opportunities to learners of all ages, but unfortunately, the overly restrictive UDO prohibits this. Please do the right thing, the progressive thing, and anything that helps our community address our climate emergency from a whole nother angle. Please vote yes on my mother's variances and support other changes to the UDO that encourage residences in taking action and supports the city and its climate-related goals and plans for the future.
My name is Madison Spear.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you have 5 minutes.
Okay, so this is a speech written by Jane St. John. Dear members of the Board of Zoning Appeals, thank you for your service and for your attention to this matter. I am writing to request that you grant Ellie Spear permission to teach indoors in her home to 1 or more people at a time. I request this for the following 3 reasons. 1, as Ellie has demonstrated, the purpose of her work actively supports the city's goals as outlined in its own climate action plan and sustainable urban gardening plan. We are a city with plans of many kinds, well-researched and well-written. Sometimes when actions are required to implement these plans, it makes us uncomfortable, and we tend to want to go back and revisit or recreate the plan. Let's not do that. Let's keep the good work that Ellie and her family have substantially invested in moving forward. 2, zoning ordinances are specifically called out as fundamental to the changes that are required to support the city's goals. We need your help. 3, you will not find the work that Ellie is doing done better anywhere else. Her systems of home composting, waste reduction, and sustainable gardening are exemplary, even world class. She has been and will continue to be thoughtful about the needs of her neighborhood. My best advice to her neighbors is to get closer and learn more. Change in our neighborhood is hard. I've lived in Bryan Park neighborhood for 32 years, and I didn't love losing the giant sycamore down the street last week to the duplex that is going there. We all are having to accept challenges in how our neighborhoods look. This particular zoning request is one that will improve our city. Please support it. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a speech written by, sorry, I have multiple speeches I'm reading for people who couldn't make it here. This is a speech written by Julie Fisher, who is a first grade teacher at Marlin. Good evening, Board of Zoning Appeals. My name is Julie Fisher. I teach first grade at Marlin Elementary. Marlin sits right at the edge of a neighborhood off of Bethel Lane. Last fall, my class visited Ellie's farm in order for Marlin's kindergarten and first grade students, teachers, and administrators to get ideas of how to design our school garden, which is similar in size to a residential backyard. What would be easy and delicious for the students to grow and maintain within the academic school year, and experience examples of activities that would align with our state teaching standards. Not only did our students enjoy hugging, decorating, and measuring the circumference of Garden Q's huge 70-pound pumpkins, but we also were able to see how much space we would need to grow these amazing Cinderella specimens. It would have been very difficult for me to figure out this without visiting, without seeing how to creatively grow large pumpkins within a confined amount of space. We even changed our garden design grant application after our field trip to incorporate items that we discovered were vital for protecting the students' garden projects from hungry urban grazers, items that I would never realize that we would need without visiting. Allowing classes, teachers, and students access to test out and see urban gardening examples and ideas in person is invaluable. I hope that you as a board will consider how important organizations are, such as Garden Quest, are to our community. Thanks for your time, Julie Fisher. I have one more. This is a speech written by John O'Reilly, who is currently a biology teacher at South High School. To city council members and concerned residents, I am writing to express my strong support for the Spears Garden and agriculture initiatives. As a high school teacher, I love the idea of classes visiting a local urban garden for hands-on learning experience. I believe this property offers immense value not only for the students, but also for our community as a whole. By engaging in garden-based projects, collecting data, and experimenting with environmental science, students gain practical real-world knowledge that complements this classroom education. They have the chance to learn about sustainable agriculture, urban ecosystems, and the critical role of biodiversity, all while connecting with the local environment in a meaningful way. As a neighbor, I also see the tremendous value in their sharing of information about neighborhood beekeeping. I really enjoyed getting to spend time out at the hives with Ellie and her family. Understanding the essential role that pollinators play in our food systems and local ecology is an invaluable lesson that can inspire future generations to engage with and protect our natural world. I would love to be able to share this with my students. I am confident that such experiences that are available through the Spears Urban Garden can foster a deeper connection to the neighborhood and promote environmental stewardship amongst neighbors and students alike. I really appreciate all the amazing projects that they have going on there, and I'm happy to support it in any way I can. Sincerely, John O'Reilly. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Orly Spear.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Okay.
I will be speaking on behalf of Beth Smith. Good evening. My name is Beth Smith, and I am a STEM educator for MCCSC, friend of the Spears, and advocate for school gardening. I have worked with Ellie Spear for over 10 years on various projects at Childs Elementary School and within the community to help students learn more about life science, plant biology, composting, healthy eating, and more. The Spear family has created a beautiful learning environment that has zero to ever so slightly minimal impact on the residential area, yet harnesses the most positive impact for the community from an educational outreach and an equity standpoint. Garden Q has provided many learning opportunities for students at their farm Garden Q, including National Junior Honor Society, National Honor Society, and community transition students, both groups who have reported to their advisors that they learn valuable skills through their experiences. Classroom field trip groups have had the opportunity to learn at the Spear Family Farm. Last fall, Child's Elementary Construction Club walked down after school to learn about the eco-friendly construction of the Spears Conservatory, and the Marlin School Group visited Garden Q for a morning field trip. During that time, kindergarten and first grade students had the opportunity to learn about how worms and other decomposers break down our food for the ultimate act of recycling. By the way, this is a really important 3rd through 6th grade science standard. Why not teach them young? Check out the Veggie Garden to learn about the way plants can be interplanted as companion plants. Carrots love tomatoes, tomatoes love basil. Our small school gardens mimic residential gardens and urban farms, so seeing how to maximize growing space that also benefits the plants is key. For students, seeing the interplanting and spacing in person creates an understanding that a list of companion plants or a YouTube video will never equal. Learn more about bees at the beehive/beekeeping area and how to safely interact with them, which is a must with children needing to both learn to play inside and outside. Not to mention many more outdoor experimental learning stations throughout the urban farm. Young people need to realize that you don't have to live in the country or on 100 acres of flat land to grow corn or soybeans or to be a farmer. Every square foot of yard space can be harnessed for food production to increase sustainability. Ellie is a scientist, and her methodologies for experimenting in backyard illustrate her intelligence, curiosity, and energy. It is vital to have hands-on experiences for students because they are such an important aspect for learning, especially with science and engineering. And having a local site for this type of hands-on experience that is easily accessible for students and teachers is invaluable. The opportunity for public schools to partner with organizations like Garden Quest that can support the required state standards is extremely valuable, as schools neither have the space nor the funding to do much of this work. Opportunities like this add tons of value to public teaching, and I'm grateful to be able to partner with Ellie and Garden Quest. I would like to express my gratitude for all that the Spear family does for our community. I would hope our zoning commission would create a variance to allow the good work to happen at Garden Q, knowing that the Spear family is helping our community in the most positive of ways. Sincerely, Beth Smith. I would also like to say something on behalf of myself and not on behalf of Beth Smith. I have grown up in this family, as you know, because I am their child. And I know a lot about gardening and about food and about nutrition and all the things that have to do with just what we take into our bodies and what we take in, what we put out as well. And a lot of my friends don't know a lot about that. It's crazy to me. Like, I will be talking about the nutritional value in an apple, and they'll be like, what? They're like, why does this, how do you know this? Also, is this true? And so I just think it's crazy that a lot of my peers don't know about nutrition and don't know how to grow their own food and don't understand the significance of what we are doing here. One of my best friends has come and has learned from my mom as well, and she has brought that back home to her house, and she has implemented some of the things that we have done at our house at her house. They have completely switched over from a diet that was mainly based on processed foods and stuff like that, and they have really adopted our style of living because they know it will be beneficial for their health. And her mom dealt with cancer, and after she did that, after she went through it, she is cancer-free now. She was like, I'm gonna make a change. I'm gonna make a change to help you guys, to make sure that you guys don't have to deal with what I dealt with. I'm gonna try my best because this is all we can do. What can we do to prevent cancer?
Thank you so much. Your time is up.
Yeah.
I'm Bob Austin.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, although I am reading somebody else's presentation.
Okay.
This is written by Josh David, who is the current board chair of the Community Orchard. Garden Q provides an incredibly valuable resource for the community. Most farms operate outside of city limits, where access and education is limited to those with the capacity to travel and experience them. Like the Bloomington Community Orchard, Garden Q values community access and education, and it wants to create more resources for community members to benefit more easily, thus growing our collective influence and impact. Recently, we were hoping to hold our fall retreat at Garden Q, including an educational farm tour, but we're told that is not allowed by current city codes. Ultimately, if they were just individuals doing this for a group of their friends, that would be allowed. But because of our organizational statuses, we were told that is not permitted. Moving forward, we need to reshape policies in a way that support the long-term sustainability of our vibrant community, while ensuring that we're cultivating an educated community of educated home growers that can support hunger and poverty-related initiatives to improve our community with each new generation. Garden Q is actively doing this despite the current policy challenges, and we encourage the city to help support more opportunities like theirs to help our community grow and thrive together. There's a student from Bloomington South, Cody, who could not be here, but he did make a recording, and I'll like to play that for you.
When I initially chose Garden Quest as my Bloomington High School South internship, I was initially a little bit intimidated by it. It was something I'd never done before. Gardening was never really on my list or plan of things to do, but I was interested. And luckily for me, thanks to Ellie's guidance and his leadership, I was able to easily understand most things. Even if I can't remember all of it at the current moment, I was able to understand what I needed to do and still take away some things from it. Not some, a lot of things. Sorry. I really enjoyed learning about bokashi. Even if that was really early on to there, I can still remember today because, well, it was pretty nasty, but it was interesting to know how easy it could be to make a super fertilizer for plants. Additionally, taking care of chickens was like one of the best parts of that entire internship. Oh my gosh, I love taking care of chickens. They're so cute and it's easy to hold. Well, now I know how to hold them. I know how to take their eggs. I kind of know how to lure them away. And I also know how to quarter them. They're awesome. But there was other things too, such as beekeeping. Beekeeping, something I would have never experienced anywhere, including at South. Well, maybe I would have learned it somewhere else, but how accessible it was thanks to Ellie and the location of it, which I wasn't expecting to be able to do over there. And that was what stuck out to me. I was able to do so much, even if it was in a tiny area, inside of a neighborhood, basically in the backyard of a house. It's not really open to a lot of room, it feels like, but I don't know why. It is. There's so much to do there. There's so much to learn, especially learn from stuff you can't learn at South. And I think that's what makes it cool. And I feel like with making outdoor education in a neighborhood setting illegal sounds like a bad idea because you're taking away the opportunity for so many people to learn. It's an establishment. Okay, it's helped people. I don't see what it's doing wrong. It helped me. I bet it can help other people over at South if they want to pursue careers in agriculture or even just come over here. I can see the biology class doing a field trip just to check this place out. So I hope you would reconsider.
Thank you for your time and my opportunity to speak to you.
Thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else who would like to speak this evening?
I'm Penny Austin.
Yeah, so we can hear you.
Oh.
There we go. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
As best as I can.
Okay, thanks.
I'm Penny Austin. I'm a retired public school teacher, a volunteer for the city of Bloomington, and a very active master gardener. I would like to speak about outdoor gardening education as a life skill. Gardening can help people make decisions, solve problems, manage their lives in a healthy way. Being outside is a life skill that can promote a healthy body, mind, and spirit. In this world of dysfunction, gardening can help to cure some of the modern-day stresses that exist. However, some people need to be guided as to how to grow gardens by their home. Ellie freely offers several ways to help people to be more food sustainable, to be more climate aware, and just to have fun. Fun. I'm an educator. Kids have to have fun. Adults have to have fun. Ellie has always been concerned about the environment. When she was in 8th grade at Bachelor Middle School, she was able to convince the principal that using paper products at lunch was not acceptable for her world. As a 13-year-old, she challenged the school and convinced them to buy trays that were to be washed and reused, reducing MCCSC waste that had to be hauled to the landfill. Ellie was valedictorian at Bloomington High School South. She attended Emory University and successfully completed degrees in biology and human and natural ecology. She knows her stuff. Ellie was employed by Chiquita Banana out of Cincinnati, and she traveled all over South America for Chiquita, visiting farm properties and advising environmentally sound practices. Additionally, she has completed a permaculture coursework. Bloomington is so fortunate to have Ellie to want to guide residents in its climate initiatives by demonstrating to neighbors, friends, how to do so at her property. They will learn by doing. Ellie has instructed students at Marlin Elementary about Bokashi food waste system. I watched and I listened, and I decided that if kindergartners can do it, then so can I. I used to add my food waste to my outdoor composter, which had very slow marginal results. But now I am excited to use the special liquid produced by the Bokashi process to fertilize my outdoor plants and kickstart that slow composting. Best of all, I can bury the actual fermented food waste directly in the ground. In a month or two, that area of soil will have completely changed into nutrient-rich, loamy, newly revitalized soil. I can't imagine how that skill can be taught indoors. Even though I have taught elementary sciences and am a master gardener, I often visit Ellie and ask her about this garden practice or that plant. She's a wealth of knowledge. However, since the city has been questioning her practices, even as her own mother, I feel uncomfortable asking her any questions about her garden or mine on her property so that she is to not have to educate, thus breaking her agreement with the city. It's been an ordeal. Education is not static in a box. It's organic, and it's always moving and growing and growing and growing. Isn't that what we're talking about? Growing food to help others sustain themselves, have better medical outcomes because they're eating live produce instead of dead food that you might buy at the drugstore. Let's help Ellie to legally educate outdoors, indoors, everywhere. Her guidance can help those who ask to raise their own food, have that security and their confidence to pass forward those new skills to others and to Bloomington residents, and they can have a better quality of life.
Thank you. Okay, is there anybody further who'd like to speak this evening? Oh, we do.
So you know if you.
Okay, let's take
Okay.
the person online.
Yep. Mr. Gass, you should be able to speak. Yep, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Okay, we're going to go to the person here
Okay.
while you're sorting that out.
Try you
If
again in a second, Mr.
Yeah,
Guest.
okay. If you'd like to state your name, please.
I'm Connie Cook Glenn, and I am the neighbor directly south of the Spears.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Thank you.
So you have seen a petition that several of us put together who are on Brooks Drive and a few on Covenanter. Most could not be here tonight. One has already left. One is on a plane. You've also seen a note from Sarah Hughes and Jim Barnes, who are on South Brooks. And we have mentioned some concerns that to us have not been approached. We would never suggest that sustainability and environmentalism is not a good thing. We're all educators. My husband will introduce himself, but I've been a lifelong educator. I've worked with children forever and in adults now at the university. So I don't feel like we have any beef with the goal of education or the goal of environmental education. The working with school children is very positive. Ellie's very qualified. I don't have any disagreement with that. I'm quite concerned about a fundamental change in a residential zoning rule that would really change quite a bit about Bloomington. And I think that is where we're at. You know, indoor education that is directly related to outdoor education is going to be difficult to separate. And I think that we have seen tonight we heard that there were petty neighbors on the street. We heard that we were disrespectful. We've been trying very hard to have conversations, but in fact, that's what the response is. We feel we'd like to have open dialogue. We also feel that we should be concerned about property values. We moved in just 4 years ago. There was nothing of this on the horizon that we knew of. Probably was in their minds, but we didn't know about it. We wouldn't have bought our house. Okay, so that's a property value change right there. But I would ask that you consider the kind of dissension that it is likely to bring to neighborhoods if you open this up with a change in the UDO that allows for urban farming or agricultural, whatever it is, whatever the term is that gets used, because it does seem that the most aggressive and the loudest voices are likely to, I don't want to use the word when, we're all here for sustainability, right? But where should it take place? What about doing some work at the schools? I know that Ellie has done that at Childs. Let's do some more there. It fundamentally changes the notion of a neighborhood. If we have buses coming in, if we have large groups coming in, we have not, I should have mentioned, first of all, the memo that we all put together is dated July 18th, which by this meeting is plenty of warning. But at that time, we had just found out that, and in fact, the memo, I sent some corrections saying, oh, I didn't know there was a request. I thought it was just this online petition that I found, kind of by happenstance. So there's this whole thing about not talking to us, not keeping us informed, not knowing what's going on and feeling like the wool has completely been pulled over our eyes. I didn't know there was a petition. This memo is dated July 18th. The meeting was supposed to be very shortly afterwards. In that memo, I said something about, could we please delay it? Well, it's been delayed, and that's great. Now we know, and now we've had a meeting. But at that point, we didn't. I'm probably out of time, so I will stop. But thank you for hearing so many things. I love hearing how wonderful Ellie is. She is indeed wonderful, as are her children. They've been a great credit to her. We see them regularly. We are quite concerned about the fundamental nature of a neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone further this evening who would like to speak who is in council chambers?
able to
Is he back?
unmute so that we can hear you?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Could you please state your name for the record?
Yeah. My name's Glenn Gass. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to swear you in now. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you have 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes.
Okay. I don't need nearly that much because I don't, I really like the Spears. I admire them. And, the Covenanter neighborhood is not known for neighborhood disputes. And I think Connie referenced this too, the reference to petty neighborhood disputes and small-minded neighbors. That's really insulting, actually. Let's get a grip here. This is not about global warming or the future of farms in Indiana. This is about a neighborhood and zoning. Even in the discussion about the plans, the outside was already a given, even though you said explicitly at the beginning that it's not approved yet, but it seems like yet. Of course, once this goes through, it will be because it's part of the plan, obviously. So, and then I hear the word 50 people outside. I don't, honestly, I'm trying to be open-minded, and I really, like I say, I have no grudges. I don't even live next door. If I lived next door, as Connie, the previous speaker, does, I'd have a hell of a lot to say, and those are the people that ought to be saying the most and ought to matter the most, not someone that lives, in Colorado and believes in sustainable farming. This is not the point here. This is a neighborhood issue, a zoning issue. There was a zoning, they're trying to change it. Let's figure that out. If the houses next door to us both sold within the last several years. I mean, if on one side of us they had decided to have a sheep farm and the other decided to grow corn, I'd be like, what? Seriously. So, nothing against anybody. I really don't want to create any bad feelings, but I really want to sympathize with the people that have to live directly by this. And I think, honestly, they're the ones that should matter most. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else online? Anybody else? Okay, so we're back. Chambers, if you could state your name, please.
James Glenn.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thanks.
Just following up a little bit on what Connie was saying, my wife, by the way, I'm a lifelong science educator, recently retired, and we have nothing but respect and for education, outdoor education, kids education. I've been teaching science for 35 years. I'm a biologist. That's not the point. I think we support sustainability. Our issues are mostly with lack of communication and having to find out about certain things second and third hand. And Connie mentioned our neighbor, Sarah Hughes, who is on a plane right now, who you've got her letter in your packet. And part of the issues that she also had was kind of being held in the dark by some of this and finding out last minute. My big issue is doing things and then people finding out, the city finding out, and that you're not complying with zoning ordinances when you should know that before you're going in and building an addition without knowing whether or not you can use it, and then going in and asking for variance. So if they want to open a school to do education, that's great. They have to get zoning for that. But in a residential neighborhood, it should be, subject to residential zoning. The farm is great. What they do on the property is great, and I have no objection to what they do on the property as long as it's within the zoning codes, which is what happened with the bike thing. They were welcome to build the whole thing on their property, and that's what they did. And we've heard a little bit about that, but it's a neighborhood, and so I don't support zoning changes because I'd like to live in a residential neighborhood. That's why we moved there, a residential neighborhood that's walkable, and this is unfortunately causing some dispute among neighbors that we don't really want to have. We'd prefer open dialogue. So that's the main concern of us on Brooks Drive. I guess that's pretty much what I wanted to say. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
Matthew Austin. Oh, are you going to go? No, go ahead.
Matthew, you're up. I'll just swear you in.
Okay.
Okay, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Matthew Austin, and I'm not only Ellie's brother, but also her right hand at the urban farm. Or as I like to say, I'm the Robin to her Batman. Why do I say this? I say this because my sister is as close to superhuman as I have found. Her drive, desire to create positive change, help her community, and always doing the right thing are unparalleled. How did I get to become the Robin to her Batman, you ask? Well, I moved back to B-Town, as a good bloomerang should, at a request in order to aid her in building the urban farm. Now, when most people hear the word farm, they think of a rural farm with hundreds, if not thousands of acres of land with lots of big machines that do the heavy lifting. My sister's urban farm is nothing like that. The property is only 1.67 acres and has a large flood zone since it abuts up to Jackson Creek. We grow 5,000 to 6,000 pounds of organic fruits and veggies using permaculture and regenerative ag techniques. This includes 100 plus different veggies and 25 plus fruits on just 1/2 acre of raised beds. Suffice to say, we don't use the heavy equipment that you'd see at a rural farm. What equipment do we use? We use the same shovels, trowels, soil knives, pots, wheelbarrows, etc., that you probably use at your home. We even use electric devices like this leaf blower. We use an electric weed whacker and electric riding lawnmower, which are quieter than their gas-powered alternatives. These are all tools typical of any family in America that has a 1 to 2 acre property. The difference is that we don't just have 1 or 2 sets of tools, we have multiple sets for use on the farm since multiple family members might be working at the same time. My point is that regardless of whether my sister's educational nonprofit, Garden Quest, or her for-profit Garden Q existed or not, she would still be doing exactly what she currently is, with growing food, sustainability initiatives, neighborhood recycling, and food waste pilots, chicken husbandry, honeybee husbandry, and much more. What is crazy is that if you're driving on Covenanter, you would have no idea that there was an urban farm in the Spears backyard. Only by turning onto Brooks are you able to see it. Her passion for teaching and assisting others in growing their own food, as well as other sustainability initiatives, is very evident. And whether she's working one-on-one with MCCSC community transition students, or group settings with Boy Girl Scout troops, or larger events like a school field trip, these are all endeavors that build community with a focus on gardening and sustainability initiatives that are vital to the future of our world. In order for these ideas to be realistically duplicatable on another resident's property, that member of the community has the opportunity to see this in real life at Ellie's Urban Farm, all while gaining hands-on experience necessary to give them the confidence to then mimic it at their own property. We have already seen this method starting to work with bokashi acidic fermentation of food waste as fellow residents start to adopt bokashi as a preferred method of dealing with and turning food waste into a resource that assists in growing nutritionally dense food. The initiative is especially important since Monroe County lost its only food waste option, Earthkeepers, when it shut down in 2023. Unfortunately, for the past few years, my sister's attention has been divided between her goals and her attempts to work with planning and transportation on figuring out how to proceed forward, all while considering the restrictive zoning code we are currently here addressing. As her brother, it has been very challenging for me to see how frustrated and anxiety-filled Ellie gets when she is working to do the right thing for everyone's future, but is blocked by these restrictive zoning laws. Even worse is the impact to all the students and community members that have lost the opportunity to work with and learn from her on the urban farm. I've witnessed her break down in tears too many times to count after speaking with neighbors, one that is particularly verbally abusive, dealing with various false rumors and lies being spread by those that oppose what we are doing, emails that are sent and that are unanswered by city employees, various city departments being used to bully my sister into submission, and many more experiences that I would consider to be abusive. This seems to be par for the course when dealing with overly restrictive zoning laws and nosy neighbors that are unwilling to mind their own business and who use the city as their own personal bully. It really is unfortunate. It has taken a negative toll on my sister's well-being and her pursuit of happiness and her passions. With all that being said, Ellie continues to attempt to work with students from local high schools and IU off property in order to advance these initiatives and assist the city of Bloomington in its climate goals that have been spelled out in the Climate Action Plan. We understand that the city can't do this alone, and even more so when they are understaffed and overworked, and without citizens like Ellie working to address our climate emergency, very little actually gets done. Citizens like her should be celebrated and considered an ally, not a criminal deserving of fines and bullying. She really should have a seat at the table when it comes to tailoring city code on the topic of urban farming, gardening, sustainability, because she is living it every day. I encourage you not to consider the past or the present, but most importantly, the future ramifications, positive and negatives of your decisions. Approving these variances would be in line with the 21st century progressive thinking, as well as goals that have been already stated by various city commissions, committees, and other documents created to guide the city into a healthy, sustainable future. Please vote yes on her variances and set the example that we want citizen scientists to take action and help our city and community move forward into the future, all while creating hope for our future generations. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Point of order. Can we ask how many more we have? Because I'm going to need a break here.
You need a break? Okay. I think we have one more person,
Is it one more?
I think that's the last person.
Okay, thank you.
And then we can take a
Thank you.
5-minute break. Sure. Oh, 2 more people. Can you hold
Can I
that?
step out just for a minute?
Of course you can.
Thank you.
We're going to take a 5-minute break. Yeah. We'll resume at 8 o'clock. Please state your name.
I'm Diamond Mather. I live on Brooks Drive.
Okay. I'm going to swear you in now, okay? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I'm sorry, I can't see.
Yes.
Is it echoing?
What you're saying is going to be the truth.
Maybe I'm too close.
Just say yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I had no intention of speaking tonight. I've lived on Brooks Drive for 59 years. The people next door had been there 10 years before, but they're gone now. We're not saying we don't approve of this gardening in their own home, but there are plenty of books and magazine articles and newspaper articles if you're really interested in doing it. That's how I learned, and unfortunately for this year, I haven't been able to do it because of being 95. But Bloomington has said that they're interested in small communities of homes, like little villages in the city, rather than pizza parlors and that sort of thing. I get so frustrated at all the talk about that you can't do this unless you have a big place to learn it from and have a big place to grow things. And you can do it if you're interested. Without that, these people could have bought a place at the edge of town years ago and wouldn't have had to pay the price that we do now. But if you're really interested, you can do it in a small area. And just by reading, you don't have to have a large production like they want to put in next door or across the road. When they first came to town, she came over with her mother and her daughter, her about 3 or 4 years old, real old doctor, her daughter, and wanted us to sign a thing so that they didn't have to put a sidewalk along their long side of their lot. And I signed it gladly because we had so many people who walked their children or their dogs down Covenanter and turned on to Brooks, and then they could let their children out of their strollers because you could see the whole distance to see if anyone was coming. And the same with the other end. We're a dead end at both ends, separated by Covenanter. And it was such a pleasant place for them to walk for those reasons. And now I hardly see any at all because I don't know, there's going to get more and more traffic bound to. And so the people at the end aren't going to be isolated. They're going to be turnaround places. Ours is already because they've put their mailbox out on Brooks, even though their address is Covenanter. And people start down Brooks and see that it is a dead end and turn around in our drive and drive out. I get so frustrated that they absolutely need this school, and it's not going to be free. They're not going to be doing it for nothing.
I have to say that your time is over. Your time is done.
Time is up.
Oh,
But thank you. Thank you for your comments.
thank you for listening to me. I had to talk and say there are other ways than plopping a thing in the middle of a neighborhood.
Thanks so much. We have one more person from the public who'd like to speak. If you could sign in and then...
Sheet's almost full. I think we're finished. My name is Daryl Bogus.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay.
And first, I'd like to express appreciation to the previous speaker. I think we heard a few words of wisdom, even though it was not expected or planned. Thank you very much. I agree with some of the things she said. I think part of the problem here is she described. It's a cul-de-sac. It's a small cul-de-sac. And they don't even have a sidewalk on both sides. I live in Park Ridge East, on my street. It's not a cul-de-sac, but we don't have any sidewalks. We don't have very much traffic. So she's concerned about what's happened and what might happen. But what I've heard tonight, I think the growth, the scope of the outdoor part, I've seen it evolve over a few years. I think it's about where it's going to end up. I think what we see is what we're going to get. But I'm pleased we're here tonight because I think you as a group are in a position to make a decision and do something positive, even though it's constrained within your responsibilities, to give them a little bit of a glimmer of a green light so they don't have this continuing burden of the city bureaucracy is holding them down. Really, that can be frustrating. And I suspect you're a little bit frustrated because most of the comments that we've heard would be better directed to the city council, maybe, because they have a broader scope of responsibility than you do. So I would conclude with suggesting a short list of possible remedies that you can do. The first one is, I think that number of 15 people was somewhat arbitrary, and if somehow there happened to be 16 that showed up, it would be really clumsy and uncomfortable to tell which one has to sit outside, maybe. So if you could, in your discretion, bump the ceiling up a little bit, maybe 20, pick a number. She doesn't want 50 people in the house. The house is not that big. But to me, 15 is like 5 chairs in 3 rows. That's not a big crowd. And if it's children, they're not very big people. So that's item 1. Second item, you could approve the variance as recommended by staff. That's easy. But the third part is political, and that's more difficult. It's interacting, it's communicating. You've all been here, you know people, you're comfortable in this building. After we leave tonight, I would encourage you to talk to your friends on city council and other people who might have an interest in this subject and encourage them to consider a modification to the ordinance. The fundamental problem here tonight is when the ordinance was being written, nobody contemplated what we're discussing tonight. The real subject is creativity, initiative. Bloomington is known and is recognized as an incubator of businesses, of ideas. Well, this is not really a business. It is an idea, but it's an idea before the words got on paper. So we need to match that up. It's just beyond my imagination to think about when I was a little kid growing up. If I wanted to learn how green beans grow, I didn't go in somebody's kitchen or living room or garage to talk about it and they show me something and I grow a little thing. You go in the garden with the neighbor or with mom and dad and they say, look, that's a green bean and it grows up here and here's a pole and that's what it does. You know, it's experiential learning. That's essential. Okay.
Thank you.
Last call for public comment on Zoom. If you'd like to speak, raise your virtual hand or send me a message. No, nothing on Zoom.
No. So once you come to the podium and you speak, that is your turn. Now, yes, now the petitioner has another 3:35. So this is your opportunity for any last comments.
Jackie, could you please bring up the condition or the zoning usage of zones 1 through 5 and what, R2? Can you show that chart? The table. Okay. And while she's doing that, because I saw some confusion in terms of R2 and where urban farms fall, and I want to be able to show you that from the UDO. But I also want to clarify that there was a misunderstanding of how many days we do sell, and we do follow the 180-day rule. So we are not commercial, we are non-commercial. We put up our sign for 6 months, we take down our sign for 6 months. I send out an email, I have a distribution list, I do it for 180 days or less. So I want to make that clarification for the record. Yeah, so is it show? Oh, yes. So I want to show urban, or I want to show the farm. Yes. So I want to show that in residential R2, we are R2, that urban agriculture, non-commercial, is allowed. So we're allowed to farm in R2. Sorry.
Thank you. Yes.
So.
Okay. And, okay.
I think that's
Those
it.
are your final
Do you have anything
comments. Okay, so then we are back to the board for any further questions, discussion, and action.
I have a question.
Yes.
Oh, actually, I want to do
Well,
one more. Sorry.
yeah, if you have one more comment, I will let you make that, but then we're going to be to the board. So if you have one final comment you'd like to make?
Yes.
Okay.
And tonight, I understand you are in a difficult position. I think there's basically two choices since it was very confusing. It's either we are put in the home occupation box, and then as staff suggested, you have the choice of making that the decision of the variance and the conditional use permit, or you put us in that other box of non-commercial where the use is permitted. So that's the last thing.
Okay, okay, thanks. Okay, question.
I don't think that's necessarily true, but
Yeah.
that's not my question. My question goes to, in the memo, there's reference to a request for a variance based for home occupation for more than one non-resident employee.
Yes.
But in the conditions at the bottom of the recommendations, all I see is a condition that petitioner may not have more than 15 people on site for educational programming. Does that include interns and employees?
So in the recommendation paragraph above the numbers, we recommended denial of the variance request for number of employees.
Okay.
So that would
I
be
missed that,
like
sorry.
the troop and parents who come with the troop.
Okay.
Can you just clarify, based on what Ms. Spear just said, we really do only have one choice, or one choice, there are two. So
Yeah,
we are
there's
looking
one
at two
question
things
and two
tonight.
options,
Right.
right? So the question is, do you think that they meet the UDO requirements for a home occupation?
Exactly.
A home occupation by the UDO limitations is only in the building. You can only either let them have a home occupation in the building or not in the building. This board does not have the purview to let them deem them non-commercial urban agriculture.
So our purview is very narrow, and it's really the twofold. It's the conditional use approval, and it is the variance. Those are the two things that we can either approve or deny And that's pretty much.
Yes. And I'll say, you know, it has been going on for a long time. A lot of things have been said, some
Yes.
still accurate, some not. We, as a department, were contacted by a council member to ask for help on crafting something for this type of use. And as you know, we do an annual UDO update that will happen in the spring of '25. So that we are anticipating that will something, and I mean, it's not written for one person, one party, one property, but something addressing the fact that the UDO is not as friendly maybe as the Sustainable Action Plan wants it to be, or the Comprehensive Plan wants it to be, to different types of agriculture, is something that we are anticipating will come out in that spring update.
Okay. I do have one question, one follow-up, and that is under the home occupation standards, number 2, when you talk about the maximum number of non-resident employees, and since there is no definition of employee in the UDO, and staff has provided an interpretation, do we have any leeway in that interpretation as the board?
That's a good question. Ms. Lacey, are you on? I think I want to say, I think the interpretation is up to the department. And then, you know, we present to you what we think is accurate. You don't have to agree with our recommendations, but I'm not sure, like, so in this case, would you be saying, if they're not, for example, if they're not paying someone, then we don't think that counts as an employee. So we don't agree with this interpretation.
Exactly. I think
okay. Ms. Lacey, are they able to kind of have that leeway? I'm just not sure.
I think that the interpretation is up to the department as opposed to the board.
Okay. So then that would be, just to play this out, if there was if somebody were to take issue with that, then that would be at an administrative appeal level.
Yes, yes. Or, you know, alternatively, you know, alternatively, you could come up with a third finding for that variance and grant the variance and, you know, allow that. But that isn't really addressing the specific question. Yeah.
So the problem I'm having, or the challenge that I'm seeing here, is allowing 15 people on site. To me, it seems like the real issue is the generation of traffic and parking and all those kinds of things. And really, in essence, does it make a difference if those people are learners or if those people are learning by assisting in a different way if money's not being changed if no money's changing hands. So I'm just trying to reconcile that, if there's a way that the board can broaden that interpretation to allow a little bit more leeway as to what people are allowed to do when they're on site.
Sure. Ms. Lacey, do you have a response to that? Sorry to call you back.
Sorry. I'm not, and I apologize. Would it be possible for you to repeat the question, because I'm not sure I'm understanding.
And I might be confusing matters. I don't know, but it just seems that so one of the conditions, number 3, is that the petitioner may not have more than 15 people on site for educational programming, and so I guess I'm having a little bit of difficulty. If I'm an intern, I'm also learning. I'm not a paid professional, in service of the business. So I'm trying to understand if there is any way that we can broaden the language in, maybe that's the would be the direction. The question would be, could we broaden the language of the condition of approval for the educational programming to allow 15 people on site? It's just that the way that staff has defined what an employee is, it seems to have, it's not allowing people who are interns, they're learning in a different way, it seems. So I'm just asking if we have any purview to change that or broaden that definition.
I mean, I think the answer is probably no. For the reason that you really start to run afoul of the constraint of having one employee once you start to have an intern, because an intern functions more in the way of an employee than it does in the way of a student. So while the intern might be learning something, the sort of compensation for an intern is the skill that they learn often. Yeah, sometimes they're paid, of course, with money, but sometimes, more often than not, they're acquiring that skill. And so I think you're really going to start to run afoul of the constraint of having not more than one employee that doesn't live at the residence.
Thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really talking about that on page 5, that second point, is that what that question is pointing to, the maximum number of non-resident employees? Or are you talking about just in general 15 overall?
No, I was just talking about number 2, and just how the,
Yeah.
staff was
But I'm reading it
defining
right, though, that it says that the UDO does not define employees, so
Right, so staff is providing the definition, they're defining it.
okay. I just want to make sure I'm on the right spot.
Yeah, and I
Thank
just
you.
didn't know if we had any ability
Leeway in
to
that, yeah.
adjust that, that's all. And it sounds like we don't. Any further questions at this point before we consider action? Okay, then we are ready for, I will entertain a motion. As a starting place?
I just need a moment
Okay,
myself just to
sure.
think what I'm,
Okay, so they're combined, so one could make a motion that's combined, or if you want to make a different motion, we could entertain it in a different way.
I mean, I'll craft something here, but I think I want to preface it with, being on the board almost 3 years, I'd say this is probably one of the most unique and impactful presentations that I've seen. So I want to say that I think this is more than a variance. This is a movement that's very calculated, and you guys have put a lot of your heart and soul into it. That's
Could
very
you
apparent.
make your motion and then your comments afterwards?
Sure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would make hang on. Can you pull that up, Jackie? Yeah, I would make it, but I also want to change one of the conditions
Okay.
to 50
Okay.
people.
Okay, so go
So-
ahead and propose your,
Okay. I'll move you approve the conditional use requested and also approve the variance associated in the following conditions to read number 3, striking 15 to put 50 people.
How many?
50,
are you approving both?
yes.
So you want to amend condition number 3 in lieu of 15 to 50?
Yes.
On site for educational programming. And then, so we're going to do the conditional use first and then the variance separately?
Sure, yes.
Okay. Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'm so sorry, so it's two separate motions? We
It's
just
going to
going
be, they're going to do, it sounds like we want to separate. the motions.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I think so. So you're moving approval of both, right? And then-
No, you just moved approval of.
No, yeah, no, approval of both.
He did both, yeah.
Yeah.
So he did it in one motion for both. So
Oh,
he-
okay. Then
so-
you have to also provide an alternate finding.
Yeah, for number three. So for the finding for strict application of terms of the ordinance will result in practical difficulties of the use of the property that are peculiar to the property.
To me, there has to be a way to make this possible. That's what it comes down to. And part of the hard part is what we want to do versus what we're allowed to do is two totally different things. And I think you guys understand that. To me, the educational aspect, this is bigger than the BZA. This probably does have to go through City Council ultimately with the UDO. That's really the fact that we've been here for 3 hours discussing this, when I think City Council ultimately has to be the ones that changes this, because I very much believe this should be allowed. I think this is the direction things should be going. So based on educational purposes, I mean, my argument for changing from 15 to 50 is accommodating the size of the educational groups they're trying to bring through.
We understand that, but we need to have, in order, so.
Right, a findings of fact.
We need a finding of fact. It's a very high threshold, and it's very particular. And it has to be related to the property itself, the nature of the property itself, and the peculiarities of being able to, it has to be a practical difficulty of the use of the property, and so it makes it really difficult to see how that is applicable, honestly.
Well, then my question becomes, Jackie, if we have no power over that, then this would have to be all through the UDO. We really don't have any power to make any kind of changes to meet them where they're halfway.
Right,
Tim, I think that's exactly kind of where we are. We've heard a long presentation tonight, but the reality is, we can't really do anything about it.
We have limited tools.
Yeah, very limited. But the larger goal here, we don't have. The code's pretty clear.
Yeah.
And so we can't. And I agree with Barry that there's no finding there that allow us to do it. That's the bigger issue. Having an argument about whether this is a great thing to have or not, that's not what we're here for. That's not what this board's for. That was a great presentation, but it didn't really do anything in terms of talking about what we're allowed to do. One thing that the petitioner can do is find a piece of property that allows this to happen based on code.
Or they can try and change the code.
Yeah. So, that's why I say there is actually relief that can be found, which is, work within the UDO, find property, and have the activities there rather than on a residential street that's marked R2. That's our problem here, to me. No matter how nice it would be and able to overcome that. I'm even hesitating to say 15. I think that's too many. So
I think the challenge with the potential change to 50 is that, as I understand the argument in the recommendation from the staff, the 15 was based on the fact that they could accommodate, but
indoors.
there's no way they can accommodate 50.
Somebody second the motion, please. Or we haven't even seconded the motion.
Okay, let me withdraw, because obviously I know
Okay,
this
we're
isn't
gonna
going.
withdraw. Okay.
My point was, we don't have control over changing code to let them be outdoors.
No.
So, right, that's, okay.
Right.
Then, yeah, I'll withdraw, but I want to be on the record about the belief in this and what you guys are trying to do and advocating with you to City Council, because you're right, the changes need to happen for things like this to happen. That's what I'll say.
Okay, so let's try this again, folks. Somebody want to make a stab at a motion?
I'll make a stab at it, but I think that we should divide the question, because if we don't approve a condition of the conditional use for a home occupation, then the variance is irrelevant. So I'll make a motion that we approve the conditional use request for home occupation.
Okay,
Based on findings of fact and
Based
with
on
the
findings,
conditions?
facts, yes, and conditions.
And the
Thank you.
conditions. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Okay, any discussion?
I just want to be clear, that's for CU-V 2624, use 2024-07,
Yes.
0056, correct?
Yes.
I want to be
Yes.
clear just because of the two.
I know, yes, sorry.
Just the
Yes.
first one?
Yep.
Okay.
That's what I believe is second.
Okay, so that's
yeah.
what's
Thank you.
on the table right now. Any further comments? I will say that I think 15 is a reasonable amount in terms of allowing, some educated, different situations. I think what's unusual about this property also is that you do have with your driveway a lot of capacity, which most single-family homes do not have, which allows that parking. I'm wondering about the is there parking on any street anywhere else? Is parking allowed?
I believe parking is only allowed on Brooks. I would have to
Okay.
check on Covenanter. But the issue is, as many of our streets, it's allowed, but the actual pavement width is so small.
Right.
That lots of parking then becomes, it is public parking, anyone can
It
park
is
there.
public parking
But then it
there.
does create issues because the actual
Okay.
pavement width is
Okay.
not large.
Yeah, and there's no sidewalks. Okay, I mean, I'm comfortable with 15. I think that's a reasonable number to work with for an indoor scenario.
So I do have some comments. I made the motion, but I'm going to vote against it because I just don't think this meets the definition and the intent of home occupation in our code. It's a compelling operation. It's aspirational. There's a lot of elements of what they're doing that's extremely commendable. But this body is not the legislative body. And if you read the actual definition of home occupation, this doesn't meet it. And we've heard like 2 or 3 different pivots here, which are interesting arguments. I'm always happy to and value creativity and interpretation. But, the home occupation, when it was created in the code, was to accommodate like sole proprietors who were operating their own little business out of their house. They might have one non-resident employee. That's not what this is. And it's great, but it's not permitted under our code. And the BZA is not the legislative body. As much as we might like it and think that it's a wonderful cause, and there was a reference to a movement, well, yes, I mean, change the code. Go to the city council, amend the zoning ordinance to accommodate this. Because I could say the same thing about a lot of other businesses that I think are compelling and have tremendous, social value. So because we like this one, we have to apply the same standard to every other quote-unquote home occupation. And so I just think that the BZA needs to focus on the business of the BZA. And when we start having debates about, well, as an intern or employee, well, the whole point of the number of employees wasn't about whether they're paid or not. It was about the numbers and what comes with that with, additional activity, traffic, whatever. I mean, people might walk, which is great, but, that's what the code was about. So, as bad as we might feel, I just don't see, on the one hand, it's a nonprofit educational business. On the other hand, it's a urban, non-commercial agricultural use. Which is it? Because if it's just the well, it's not what I want to be. It's what. No. Excuse me.
No.
We've listened to a lot of everybody respectfully. I mean, you know, all I'm saying is that it's not what I want it to be. It's what the code says it is. And don't be mad at me, be mad at the code. You know, I mean, I'm not the code. We're just here to interpret it. And, you know, that may not be, people may not like it, but if the BZA starts becoming the legislative body, we're opening up a Pandora box. And we have to be consistent in what we do. And, you know, there's a lot of things that come to BZA that I don't like, but that's not what the BZA's job is. We're not the legislative body. And so.
And I also support what John, I support what you're saying too. I mean, I'm concerned about it as well and had intended to vote against, but part of it is I'm also concerned about where I believe something like this will lead, which will be outdoor activity could ensue more easily. It could lead to worse relations in the community, even if it's, you know, a 5-minute exterior walk. And your comments actually support the way I was feeling about this from the beginning, so.
Well, I would like to ask staff, because they recommended a positive, you know, it's a positive recommendation.
Yes.
So could you please state why you feel that this meets the definition?
Sure. Well, I mean, just as in the, you know, exhibit we showed of the lab. Oh, that's okay. No, I didn't mean it that way. Sorry. My just brain turning here. Of the 11 requirements for home occupation, we think that if they operate inside the house, that they can meet those requirements. That's not what they want to do, clearly, and they're asking you to help them find another way to do that. I don't think that you can, but I do think that you can tell them they can operate inside the house, and that if they agree to do that, you know, I don't want to be in an enforcement discussion with these people for the next 4 years. I really don't. It has not been pleasant. They're pleasant, but it's just not, it's not clear cut. It's not easy. And it's not easy for them. But at this point, it feels like if there is programming that they can do in the home, we can legitimize that, and they can at least know, okay, we're doing that. And then they're working with council people. We are working on, amendment language for those conversations to give to council, and that is a separate conversation about the movement or something bigger. But for these particular people, as far as I'm concerned, they can't really do almost anything there. They can work within their home occupation, but that will lapse. It's only 6 months. And so if they don't get this, then they won't be able to do anything there. But I think that they can meet some of their goals, based on our conversations with them, with programming that can occur in the home, and that they can do that. To Mr. Throckmorton's point, I mean, it is a little bit of a slippery slope, but we're trusting these citizens that they're going to follow these rules. And it has been a complicated conversation, starting out from where they wanted to be to what they are agreeing to be. But, we want to take everybody at face value, and they're saying they don't like it, they don't want to be, boxed in, but they're willing to do it because they want to keep the process going. And maybe there is next year, a path to open it up to more than what code currently allows. We think that they can meet these requirements for home occupation, that they can do programming. I mean, they, in her letter, I'm not sure if it was in this letter, but in the letter from July, she talked about like doing germination classes and, things, or canning, or things that can happen in the home. And that isn't ideal. And it will be annoying when she's telling, an 8-year-old that they can't go out into the garden or whatever. But that's all that's available. So if they want to do that, I think that they can. And, if we have issues where they're going beyond that, then that becomes an enforcement issue. And I don't want that to happen, and we're trusting that they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But I do honestly think that there is a wider conversation that's more active than it was in 2021 about, are we going to be allowing things in these, neighborhoods, quote unquote, that people that haven't been there traditionally, that are going to help us meet other goals, or are we going to keep them out? And that's something, that like Mr. Fernandez said, that's not for the Board of Zoning Appeals to decide. It's not for staff to decide. It's a wider discussion. We can prepare amendments and things for council to consider, But this is, can they do something inside the house and meet the requirements? We think that they can.
I just think that I think the city's stretching a little bit because of what John said. I mean, I agree with what John said, which is I think we know why these codes were adopted, which was for like the sole proprietor. Having been one myself before I took on an outside office, there are issues of multiple cars in people's drives, for people that essentially start a business out of their home, whether this is a school, which you could look at this as a school where you have multiple students. I mean, this is not really, I think, along the lines of what the UDO had designed.
I don't think it's part of the original intent. I understand that argument about the original intent.
Well, I'm just saying I feel like we're stretching it, and I feel like we're stretching it a lot.
When we approved the swim teacher, she only teaches one family at a time, but they're like 15-minute sessions. So, she said, I'm going to have more than 2 people in this driveway at once.
Right.
And explain the process, and that got approved. This driveway is 250 feet long. The house, I know everyone thinks I'm being dramatic, but it's large. The space that they want to use is large. I think that makes it unique, and I think that they, if they lived in a house on South Washington and we're saying they wanted to have 15 people there, no.
I understand what you're saying about the cars.
So I think we do
I'm
think
just
it
more
meets.
concerned about the use, the home occupation. It just doesn't seem to be what, fall within code.
Well, I'll just leave it at that.
Do you have a question?
Well, it's just that does the education business, the nonprofit business, require more than one non-resident employee?
Right, so that's why we recommended denial on the variance. It's not what they want, but can you operate by having, you see here tonight, 5 members of the, 5 members of the family, some of them live there, some of them don't. If those people and one extra person, can you put on classes for 10 kids with 5 parents? We felt, and also a variance finding is very difficult to say something is unique about this property that we need extra people here. If we get into that, if we get into that discussion of needing more people, if we're talking about actual agriculture outside, that's one thing, but we're not. We're talking about classes inside a house.
Okay.
It seems like impossible to enforce. That's all.
Yes, it will be, yes.
There's no way you're going to be able to tell whether it's one, employee or not. Or whether there's 20 people inside. Are you going to go in and count? I can understand the communities, the neighbors. I can understand the concerns here. And I agree with John again. I think this is a slippery slope. I think that's outside what we should be doing here, based on the UDO.
I just have to say, but I think that the UDO, and it does not seem as if it precludes this use. There's no language that precludes this. And people have equal rights under the law, it seems, in the regulation, no? You not agree?
I don't agree with that at all. I think the UDO is pretty clear. It defines what a home occupation is. It's in the defined terms.
But I think also Jackie made the point, since 2021, when things have changed greatly.
But the code hasn't.
But the code hasn't.
Right, that's what I'm saying. This group, to me, needs to, I will personally push this because I very much believe there has to be, the bureaucratic kind of hang-up of all this is, I can't imagine the frustration for staff and the petitioners. So that,
I don't disagree, but that's...
I know what the purview is.
This body.
I know it's not our body, but I'm saying who's going to push for change to ultimately happen if it's not coming from, I know it's not this body, but bodies like this need to be able to speak to the UDO and the dramatic need for change that is very, very slow up until 2021 in an economy that's going to drastically change over the next 4 to 5 years. So.
Yeah, but I do think that a board like ours that denies it is something that does push it through, because then that the petitioner then turns and says, okay, the BZA can't do this, so we have to now take it to the right spot. If we usurp the actual process, then we're doing ourselves a disservice. That's where I'm coming down. And I agree, and we've had this for many, many petitions, we've had this very issue, that this needs to go elsewhere. We should not, and I will not pass this.
I guess my encouragement to you, and I see the frustration, and hearing about what you're doing, I'm impressed. I mean, there's no other word about it. It's a wonderful project in the wrong place. And I hate to say it, it's a residential, at this point in time, with the UDO we have. This is what we have at this point. But I see your tenacity, Ellie. Push this through. Not here, because we can't do anything, but bring this before the city council. Start a movement in Bloomington. And I know the frustration because it's your place you bought, but I feel also like, did you do some research before you buy it that this was something you could do in this area? You know. So I understand voting no here creates a pressure point. So city council, well, we are in the plan commission. We can bring this up to the plan commission and then see if there's an amendment that we can come and push through the UDO. So I think that's something to talk about later, not here.
Yeah, if I may, I was going to say, we have had other variances here that were contentious, where the two members on the Board of Zoning Appeals who are on the Plan Commission gave a report at Plan Commission and asked for a majority vote, and then Plan Commission dictated to us to write an amendment to the UDO to present to council on behalf of Plan Commission for that. So, board members Ballard and Burrell, if they chose to do that, could take that up as well.
I do want to stress too, I appreciate Tim's passion on this because there are many petitions that come to us. It's so frustrating because it's gotten to this point. And I think that, we're citizens, we live here, we're not elected officials. And I think I'm with Tim many times where I feel like, man, we should just do something because this is ridiculous, this drug on this long. But I just, on this particular case, as I've said, I can't, but I really understand that frustration 100%. So.
Okay. So
if you want, I'll call the question.
Yes, we're ready for a vote.
Clapper. I'm
Yes.
sorry, so the motion is to move approval of the conditional use portion based on findings of fact with the 4 conditions included in the staff report. Clapper.
Yes.
Throckmorton.
No.
Ballard.
I'll preface my no, so this goes to city council, so no.
Burrell.
No.
Fernandez.
No.
Okay, so I want to be clear, that doesn't mean the petition has failed. We have to have a vote that gets an affirmative vote, so we have to have a motion to deny if that's what you'd like to do.
Okay, so I'll entertain another motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we deny the conditional use for home occupation based on the facts and findings.
Yes, let me
Actually,
briefly
they're
look,
supporting.
because we obviously recommended approval of the conditional use portion, so you will need for at least one of the 3, you will need to at least change one of the findings of fact.
Say that again?
So we have to find alternative findings of fact for the denial, because what was written in the staff report was...
So, for example, the first finding is just the general compliance criteria, and one of them is compliance with the UDO, so your finding of fact could be that, as based on what you've already said, is that you do not think that this request meets the home occupation standards.
Right.
Yes.
Would that work? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So I need a second.
I'll second it.
And then can I also say, be annoying and say, is this just the conditional use or the conditional use and the variance, which does become moot,
We
but
should
we
do
should
them,
just.
can we do them together?
Yes.
Yeah, let's just do them
Is
together.
that fine,
Okay.
Mr. Fernandez? Okay.
So we should probably restate it. John, do you just want to restate the motion, please, with both?
Oh, gosh, I'm not sure my brain works that.
Here we go. Okay. Just change it. Yeah.
So based upon the report and written findings of fact above, the BZA, I'm making a motion that we deny the proposed findings and condition.
We deny the conditional use approval for home occupation.
Yep.
And the variance for the number of employees.
Which she said.
Yeah, with one amended finding for the general compliance criteria, that the petition does not meet the home occupation standards. Okay.
Okay,
I think that works.
just for clarity. Just
Thanks.
And I'll go ahead and second it again.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're seconded?
So the yes is for a denial vote. Throckmorton,
Yes.
Ballard,
Yes.
Burrell,
Yes.
Fernandez,
Yes.
Clapper.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're very sorry that it is denied.
Well.
And then we are adjourned.